Are we? Is this audio that's going to go into the podcast?
Maybe.
Okay. I won't say all the infants.
It depends on how I feel like editing. You know,
That's
I
fair.
may want to go
plus,
avant-garde.
like the fans do seem to like every episode to begin
that's
with,
in
like
the
2 to
TV
3
tropes.
minutes of you just like fucking around in PowerPoint or whatever else. So I think by this point they expect it. Plus, they were missing the activate windows too, so I'm glad we've got that back.
There's our friend.
Mm-hmm.
I want to enable editing there, bud.
Oh boy, let's see. Yeah, enable editing. All right. So if I start
this is such a like school project.
Yeah, I'm glad you like this. This is on purpose.
Webster's dictionary defines university as.
It's unfortunately Roz has already ruined one of the visual gags. Are you good?
No, I can't get the thing to start screen recording properly.
Maybe
I need to remember Control Shift E. All right. Control Shift E. Now if I click over here, it's now recording the correct slide. Okay. Great, good. All right, here we are. We're doing stuff. I believe we can. Let me just make sure I haven't like fucked anything up. No, everything is functioning correctly. All right.
Terrific. Hello.
I'm going to use this as the picture for the episode.
Yeah, just a blank white.
Yeah. Listen. There's a bunch of notes, so enjoy those. Am I taking this? Is this me?
Yeah. You go for it. You're the showrunner now.
Yes,
you're
great.
Justin now. You're the captain.
Jesus. Okay.
Oh, captain, my captain.
In all seriousness, before we start, I do want to note that this episode is going to talk about rape. It's going to talk about slavery. It's going to talk about rape culture, kind of institutional failures around crime and sexual assault. So if that's upsetting to you or triggering to you, proceed with caution.
The American university gets to some dark places.
Oh yeah. We'll get there. Don't you worry.
I mean, I feel like it starts dark and then it just stays dark.
Yes, it does. Next slide, please.
Okay.
There's my visual gag.
Very good.
Okay, so my mommy went to American University in Washington, D.C., and I wanted to take this moment to say, A, it's a better school than GW, and B, unlike Georgetown, they never sold slaves to keep themselves afloat. Which we will talk about.
Isn't it one of those like 3 company town universities in DC that will just like crank out think tank goons?
Yeah, or as Roz calls it, a centrist trash factory.
Yes.
Yeah, I love to like get the Koch brothers grant for like rational centrism and like write 1,000 articles about how actually factory collapses are good.
Well, you see, different countries have different building standards, and that's okay.
Right. Exactly.
It's something about Thurston Hall at GW that just, it
that
changes
building is
people.
Cursed, dude.
That is a cursed building, yeah.
You have to figure that like every old university building, especially American ones, super cursed. Like not just the southern ones with like Confederate statues, but like think about all of the Yale buildings where like it's just filled with the kind of like accumulated orgone energy of like hundreds of generations of wasps just jerking off with their dads or whatever the fuck it is you have to do to get into Skull and Bones.
Yeah, that's pretty close. I like who Yale, the guy who founded it, was actually kicked out of the British East India Company or the Hudson's Bay
for
Company.
Jerking off with his dad too much.
For being too corrupt. And Yaleys are proud of that. So
yeah, sure.
That's what we're dealing with here.
Mm-hmm.
We are conveniently skipping universities in Europe because I don't give a shit, and that's not where I live.
Yeah,
so
they're boring in a different way, right? Like, your university was founded in the 15th century by the Pope. Who gives a shit? Fuck off.
Yeah, kings and the church, and moving swiftly on.
Yeah, we don't have the kind of authentic weirdos who just started colleges like they did in the States.
You'll get there.
Oh yeah.
Next slide, please.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, that was fast.
This is John Harvard. Okay.
That sounds like a joke,
he didn't
right?
Found Harvard. He didn't found Harvard. Depending on what asshole in Cambridge is talking to you that day, we know. Okay, on his deathbed in 1638, he bequeathed them a bunch of money, and they renamed it Harvard College, Harvard Corporation, technically in his honor. Harvard is the first university in the Americas, 1636. Now, the University of Pennsylvania...
a gigantic foot fetish. Like, I see where they've been rubbing his fucking
good
toes.
Luck. It's for good luck. That's for good luck.
I see. They claim it isn't a sex thing.
It's nothing sexual.
Yeah,
wink,
sure.
wink, yeah.
Yeah.
Skull and toes.
Oh, my God. No, please, no. No. So is this guy...
Yes.
Let's look up John Harvard's WikiFeed article. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna vomit.
It feels like a joke, right? Like that Harvard exists because of a guy called John Harvard. Sounds like a joke I would make about how the atmospheric railway was founded by like a guy called John Atmospheric Railway.
I always liked the idea of exhuming his corpse and putting him in a Harvard t-shirt as like a joke for MIT.
Well, Jeremy Bentham did that to himself at UCL, at
Yes,
University
he did.
College London.
Yeah.
The only American level weird university in the UK where the dude just fucking pickled himself. And so there's like a straw dude that looks like him and like has his skeleton in it, just like chilling, and they wheel him out in a glass case to bring him into like board meetings. It rules.
Yeah, I always appreciated UCL for just like, you can't do American universities weird as quite as well as we can, but like just imagine being the guy who's got a roll-in Jeremy. Like on just like one of those, I don't even like a flat cart or something, just running into an elevator and a foot fractures off, shit like that.
Yeah. You've got to figure that the case has little wheels, little casters on it. I'm surprised nobody's stolen him. Like that would be like a college prank thing.
Didn't somebody steal him in the 1700s?
Did they?
I could have sworn that Jeremy Bentham's head got stolen more than once.
Huh.
Good lord.
Just a dead Enlightenment philosopher head heist.
It's probably just a fraternity, and they whacked it around with the paddle a bit,
Yeah. Oh, we'll get into fraternities, I'm sure.
This is going to be a difficult one for the embalmer to work out.
I actually, in this episode, I don't have anything written down for fraternities and sororities, but
trying to defend the system because you were part of it.
Listen, many years ago, I too was young and dumb, and don't join Greek life.
Only join, what is it? Upsilon Tau, Upsilon again.
Join
Pi?
Hillel. Join Hillel and make my mother happy, even though Hillel can absolutely eat shit. Okay, so Harvard's founded in 1636. It's the first university in the Americas. Penn claims that they are the first university because they were started as a university, but I'm not giving Penn credit for shit. I know I live in Philly. I know I live 6 blocks from Penn. I fucking hate Penn.
That's valid. That's so right. So like Harvard, if it wasn't founded as a university, what the fuck was it founded as?
It was founded as a
college?
No, actually, it was founded as a kind of like a seminary. Basically, they trained Puritan clergy.
One note here, Liam. You might want to turn your gain down a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you say all the way up?
Yeah, maximum, Liam.
Yeah, maximum. Yeah.
Oh, it is actually set to maximum right now. How's that? Is that better?
That's much better, yes.
Cool, great. Oh, fuck, I lost the Discord window. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so how do we get from, like, training guys to have more buckles on their shoes to the current, like, monster that we have today?
Okay, so off to a flying start. The first president of Harvard is Henry Dunster, and there's some weird religious proxy war shit in there.
Oh, good.
Where he becomes a Baptist, and the Puritans who ran Massachusetts Bay Colony got real mad about it because obviously part of baptism, as we discovered in our Protestantism bonus episode, is believer's baptism, and the Puritans were real mad that he wouldn't baptize his infant son.
Huh.
This actually leads to Massachusetts Bay Colony's charter getting revoked in 1684, partly because they wouldn't stop fucking around with Harvard.
That rules. So the beginning of religious toleration in America is just like a bunch of guys with like dumb shoes getting into a fight over dunking a baby in some water.
Yes, although to be fair, the myth of buckles on pilgrims / Puritans basically came about because at some point people thought buckles and shit were quaint, so they just added them.
Well, I see right there. He's got the fucking buckles. He's got the buckles on the thing. So I go with what the statue tells me. That is an approach to history that lets me down everywhere south of the Mason-Dixon line. But so far in this episode, it's doing okay.
Yeah. Cambridge, Massachusetts, great town you can't afford to live in. So the president from 1681 to 1701 was Increase Mather, who you may remember from the Salem witch trials.
Got one of those cool Puritan names.
I love the name Increase Mather. I think that's a very powerful name.
Yeah, you just have a Mather dial.
Mather increases.
Yeah.
Intensifying Mather. No, I love genuinely. I love the like very literal Puritan names. My favorite is, I think it's like, "Thou wouldst be damned hadst Christ not died for thee," is all one hyphenated first name.
I like it.
Yeah, probably, but like that's not what we're here to discuss. Although Harvard gets around to hating Jews pretty good, so.
Standing by a dial labeled Mather and adjusting it while looking back at the audience to gauge the reaction.
Dial it up, and then people just start burning in the audience. Dial it down. Dial it up, more people burning to death in the audience. So yeah, Salem witch trials. Harvard starts basically not getting money from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and kind of becomes more or less private between 1830 1870. I mean, it wasn't like a state school, but obviously it had a relationship with the colony and then state of Massachusetts. And then I want to make a special mention of President Lowell, for whom there's a house at Harvard, Lowell House, who imposed a quota on Jews and had a secret gay court so that they could expel gay people in 1920.
How did they determine if you were gay?
I guess they just relied. I didn't get too many details on that, but as far as I could tell, it was basically just hearsay. That just like, that guy blew his dad, but also 2 other people, so he's totally gay.
All right, there's the secret society gay, and then there's the not acceptable to society gay. They're two different things.
Yeah, did we lose Alice?
Alice, are you there? Uh-oh.
Yeah, so I died.
Okay.
Rest in power to me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Return
More efficient than Jesus.
Yeah, literally what happened was the ghost of Increase Mather got me for like making fun of his name and just like unplugged my soundboard. So I will not make any more Puritan jokes.
And I was struck down in great agony.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there was a quota on Jews. President Lowell's an asshole, and also there was a secret gay court to figure out if you were being gay with people besides your dad at a Skull and Bones initiation.
Secret gay court makes it sound much cooler than what it is. Like, it sounds like it's a secret court in favor of like that is itself gay, instead of a secret court that like is designed to like purge you if you are gay.
Yeah. I was hoping for some whimsy, but
it could possibly be both.
There's not going to be
conceivably.
Probably. There's not going to be much whimsy in this episode.
God damn it!
I know.
But this is where the people come for the whimsy.
Yeah, that's it.
And instead, they just get a really like dark exploration of the American psyche, and also me swearing at my soundboard
as you die again.
Yeah,
as I die again because I have too many external hard drives.
As I lay dying.
Jesus Christ! Great book. We're gonna get there, unfortunately. Next slide, please. Thanks. So,
hooray.
if it wasn't obvious, from the period of 1636 to the period of Jesus Christ, 1865, you could own people.
Yeah.
You,
I mean, still kind of can, if
yeah,
depending.
oh, sure. But
only
it's
if you're a
fine
government.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Hillary Clinton intervened in Libya. Now there are slave markets, but don't worry about that. Hashtag girl boss.
Just
hashtag
like at
girl
the
power.
Arkansas governor's mansion.
Here.
She's just generally a pro-slavery lady. She just believes that it saves costs.
It's they just got to keep adding to that Clinton body count.
Clinton crime family, 100%.
I just want to know where Vince is, man. So pictured here is an unknown African American woman, almost certainly a slave, with a professor's family, circa 1860 at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is the University of Mississippi. The Lyceum at Ole Miss, which is the oldest building there, was built by slaves between 1846 and 1848. And I cannot state enough how persistent slave labor was in the kind of the early days of American universities. The Brown family, who you may know from Brown University, they were literally slavers. And I believe I read they had aboard one slave ship, they set out with 129 captured slaves and made it to the United States with like 27 of them still alive.
Jesus.
Which is fucking, yeah. I mean, universities, I would say up until really 10, 15 years ago, they just ignored it. Like, obviously, all this shit got written out of Harvard, certainly history, Princeton. I mean, you name the Ivy League, they all did some heinous shit.
It's kind of worse where, like, it's the options are either ignoring it or actively manufacturing, like, a lost cause narrative. Like, most of the 20th century, that's what academia in the South was doing, was, like, actively trying to hinder historical understanding of this rather than just ignoring it. So
oh yeah, absolutely. I don't have it in the notes, although I believe the first person noted at the University of Alabama was a slave. Like, the first mention of a human name is a slave. As an example, Yale inherited a slave plantation in Rhode Island, which they used, for money and slaves, obviously. Washington and Lee, down in Lexington, weirdly enough, admitted, as far as I know, the first black person in the United States to receive a college education, although I don't think he graduated, in 1795, when they were still at the Liberty Hall School, and then owned a bunch of slaves.
just that's the most lib shit, isn't it? To be like, yeah, well, just attainment, right?
Yeah. WNL. Oh yeah, go Generals.
Yeah, if you failed a bunch of classes, you got demoted to slave.
Oh Christ, man! Yeah, we're gonna have to edit that out.
Yeah. What is a TA receiving a stipend of like $70 a quarter?
It's true. I mean, hey, $14.8 billion in endowments, but all our classes are taught by TAs.
Oh, that's so cancelled.
Yeah, I fucking hate the Ivy League.
Very bad.
I mean, hey, like, honestly, the NCAA, where we'll get to, there are not unfair comparisons to slavery.
No. I mean,
especially what they do with those kids. Like, if the kids are cut from the team, they don't have a scholarship anymore. A lot of them report, what the fuck are they supposed to do? And the universities have no recourse for them. But yeah, we'll get there in due time. I wanted to take a moment to actually shit on Georgetown University specifically. Because if you go to Georgetown,
that rules.
If you go to Georgetown, you're a bad person. So number one, you're a bad person. So in 1838, Jesuit priests sold a whole bunch of slaves to keep Georgetown afloat financially. And actually, the Vatican made them do like a list of agreements or conditions to be met, including like that families couldn't be separated. The slaves' religious practice must be respected, stuff like that.
Yeah, you got to do moral slavery.
The Jesuits ignored all of it.
Of course.
Wow, so much for total obedience to the Pope.
Yeah.
That's some doctrine of mental reservation shit.
Yeah, Georgetown, in terms of all the universities I hate, and there are a lot of them, Georgetown is up there. Georgetown, Dartmouth, and UVA in terms of having no good alum. Roz lived in Virginia. What is from there? Roz, do you know any Virginia alumni you like? Name 3.
Not particularly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I proved my point.
I don't think I know anyone who went to UVA even. I know a lot of W&L folks by virtue of my granddad taught there.
Well, you heard it here first. Roz is the problem. Thanks for nothing, Roz.
He is bourgeois. We're all double cancelled.
But bourgeois, also Confederate apologist.
This
is unfortunate, but it does mean
personally did the Holocaust.
I am allowed to say y'all.
That's true. It's not cultural appropriation, but the downside is that your grandfather was Shelby Foote.
Oh, his grandfather was a nice man.
Granddad's very
God rest his soul.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I know I seem like I'm just kind of shitting on the Ivy League here, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Because I'm tired of the narrative that there's these like benevolent institutions that have guided America through great times of moral upheaval when Henry fucking Kissinger teaches at Harvard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so next slide, please.
Manson motherfucking proclamation.
Oh, just wait a second. We'll get there. Okay, so around 1830, a lot of churches start funding colleges and universities, either to train ministry or just to kind of, have schools of their own. So that's where you see a lot of the Eastern kind of religiously affiliated churches start to spring up. And then in the 1830s, there's a start to a movement to have land grant universities. So the hope was that states would be able to acquire land in order to do agricultural work as well as engineering. And so in 1862, the Morrill Act is passed. And the way the universities got the land, can anybody guess?
Is it stealing?
Stealing.
Yeah, stealing and genocide. One more reason to hate Penn State. Basically, if you're listening in the United States, your state's flagship university probably did some genocide.
A little bit of casual genocide, just on the side.
Yeah, we're talking 245 First Nations, 10.7 million acres, and actually this act had been vetoed by James Buchanan, notable good president.
Yeah, famously. But I mean, so this is an ideological project, right? Is you have this like civilizing mission to train like fucking yeoman farmers and like clergy and stuff, and in order to do that, you're displacing
farm boys to white collar jobs, so on and so forth. Basically, what happened was that the federal government grabbed a bunch of land and then kind of sold it for the states. So the states were allowed to kind of select federal lands, regardless of sort of where they were. New York, so Cornell, grabbed a bunch of valuable timberlands in Wisconsin.
That rules.
That's my favorite note about that is like New York is just like, yes, we're expanding.
just paradox, big New York.
It's like the Connecticut Western Reserve, but all the way across.
Yeah, I want to point out that Ohio is actually Connecticut.
Yeah, just a Serbian, like a Greater Serbia guy, but for Connecticut.
Well, it's weird because
that's my dad.
If you look at towns that were part of the Connecticut Western Reserve, they're all very much planned in sort of the Puritan, sort of semi-organic way, as opposed to the rest of the state, which is in sort of the grid-based, more Pennsylvania-style way.
Do you have any examples? I had no idea.
Not offhand. I'd
No,
have to look at a
okay.
map.
All right, word. That's crazy, dude.
Yes.
I did not know that at all.
Yeah.
Now that my personality-driven podcast has been derailed.
By actual engineering facts.
Yeah, I will at some point probably or at some point put it in an edit or something that we should have a map of all the land grant universities. They're in every state.
You're just talking about a map of the United States.
I doubt people might find it interesting. I'm sorry. But also there's a second bill passed in 1890 which funds HBCUs because especially southern states had to promise swearsy realsies that they weren't going to be racist.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why we have some HBCUs. Not all, obviously. Some of them predate the Civil War, but
yeah, isn't Morehouse the oldest? And then
I don't know if Morehouse deals. I think Lincoln is the oldest, actually in Pennsylvania.
That sounds
but
right.
Morehouse is damn close if they're not first.
Mm-hmm. And of course, like when this was going through, it was like, yeah, you have to fund these equally, right? Just a big wink.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I'll touch on, but if it's not obvious, I mean, the United States did not give a fuck about educating black people for its entire history. It still doesn't. There's a school. There's two HBCUs around Philly. There's Lincoln and Cheney. And Cheney perpetually has very little money, and a lot of that is just because the state just does not care about it. It's fucking embarrassing. And as much work as good as our public universities are, to not fund Cheney like it should be funded is absolutely disgraceful. The cool thing about Morehouse too is that it's one of like very few remaining men's liberal arts schools.
Yeah, it's like because there's a bunch of women's that then I think like
And
became
most of those are
co-ed.
co-ed, yeah.
Yeah, like Sarah Lawrence went co-ed and like recently-ish, right?
Yeah, and Vassar went co-ed, I think, in the 60s or 70s. There are still, I think, Holyoke and some of the Seven Sisters, I think, are still female only. But Cheney is the first one, as I mentioned, 1837.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And it's fighting for survival, and like I said, that's absolutely fucking embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's shameful.
Yes, Ross.
Oh, I was thinking about the real rabbit hole with HBCUs with the art museum, the one on the Parkway, the one that got moved to the Parkway with all the impressionist stuff.
Oh God.
I have no frame of reference here.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we stole it from a guy. He has an arboretum.
George Washington Carver?
The Barnes.
The Barnes. That's what I'm thinking of. Yes. Yeah, because it was all the art was entrusted to an HBCU, and then it was stolen from them.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Just like
municipally stolen.
Yeah.
There's this wonderful.
So like by Philadelphia?
I think
there was
like
Upper Marion, wasn't it?
It was in Upper Marion. It got stolen and moved to the Parkway. In a very large, expensive.
It should be ours.
Yeah, exactly. There's a documentary about it called "The Art of the Steal," which had a Drexel professor in it who used to write a lot of op-eds for the student newspaper. Who we all thought was completely insane at the time when I was at the newspaper, and now I realize he was the only guy who made sense.
Professor Kaczynski.
His professor, yeah,
Professor
Robert Zoller.
You were right.
Professor Christopher Dorner.
If you see this image on the first page.
Yeah, Lincoln is also very old, founded before the Civil War, 1854, and they're the university that were fucked over. Another HBCU. What a surprise.
Yes.
Weird how that happens.
Yeah. Very strange.
Now, I cannot state enough that Marion Township didn't deserve to have it, and we did. But
Upper Marion is just a trash heap of just, the worst sort of affluent suburban garbage.
Death to Monco, bud.
Yes.
All right. So next slide, please.
So with this in mind, then, like that having been our HBCU segment, we're now talking about the American university, and we mean more or less explicitly the white American university,
Yeah,
right?
we
Like,
do. I'll talk about that in the next slide about how, like, it's worth noting, like, obviously with segregation, obviously the other stuff slide because I am careful and delicate.
I just want to say, beat Duke, Lehigh, beat Duke.
Great song, great song. Yeah, I just want to.
This sounds like someone's Google results. It sounds like how to beat Duke.
Yes.
No, in the NCAA tournament a few years ago, 15 seed Lehigh triumphed over the vile Dukies, and it was great to watch Coach K's fucking ugly face reel and disappoint. I just fucking hate the guy. It's the whole like molder of men bullshit nonsense that college athletics loves to do. Coach K is like a fucking
everybody has to be John Heisman, okay? And like if you don't like my Heisman act where I stand on a soapbox and scream at you with a turtleneck on through like a rolled up newspaper, then don't play football.
Yeah, dude, this guy like will take away the team's uniforms when he doesn't think they're like performing like basketball worthy of Duke. I'm just like, I too would love to get paid whatever $7 million a year to fucking scream at 18-year-olds all day. Like,
this isn't Duke level. This is more Earl level.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about robber barons for a second. Duke being one of them.
So we get to talk about Stanford.
Yeah, I don't have notes on Stanford because I figured someone else would know more about it. The guy was a bastard.
Yeah, but he was a bastard, but he was also a railroad bastard, which is wherefore he gets all that money, and he just invests it. It's funny though that the all of the California Railroad guys pretty much started out as like small-time general storekeepers, and it's very much that kind of if you want to get rich during a gold rush, sell picks and shovels joke.
Yes,
that's pretty much what they did, and they parlayed that into a railroad company that was kind of like was a cartel before the letter. And then just killed a bunch of Chinese immigrants and killed a bunch of black people, making giant, like, fucking Donner Pass tunnels and shit. And then having done all of that, Leland Stanford is like, let me start a university with my name on it so I can get some, like, reputational laundry done.
Yeah. The other ones that you may know of are Vanderbilt University. Do you know where Vanderbilt University is? You might say New York. Nope, it's in fucking Nashville, Tennessee. Where Vanderbilt had never been, but established Vanderbilt to heal the wounds from the Civil War.
Christ. My favorite Vanderbilt joke is in like Archer before it got bad, like season 2 or season 3. Carol is like, she has an uncle who is heavily implied to be a Vanderbilt who is still digging tunnels under the lawn to try to dig into the Underground Railroad in the 1890s.
It was literally a subterranean railroad, yeah. So notably, the one of the schools that does not have the guy's name on it is the University of Chicago. That's greatest
Carnegie,
school in the world.
Right?
No, that is Rockefeller.
Ah, okay.
No one wants to be associated with that name.
I should have guessed because Carnegie put his name on all the libraries, so why wouldn't he do it with the
university? Carnegie Mellon University.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fuck, I forgot about Sam.
Yeah. Also the Mellon family, a bunch of bastards, banking bastards. Pittsburgh is a great city that has been notably inhabited by bastards for its entire existence.
It's true.
Hey, but
And they should have killed Frick when they had the chance.
That's true. Can't believe he pulled through. But you do get a cool like Cathedral of Learning, which is a pretty decent Fallout 3 DLC.
Yeah, Kathy is pretty sweet. But those kids are really fucking obnoxious about it.
Mm-hmm.
We get it, Pitt. There's one of our listeners is a Pitt Panther, and I wanted to just point out to him to be fair, Pitt cured polio and Penn State didn't. So, but also every state eventually sets up teachers' colleges or normal schools, which eventually kind of branch out and become universities.
Yeah. What is a normal school? Because you see that a lot when you go back in the Wikipedia for like smaller universities. It starts out as like Something'sville Normal School.
It's a teacher's college.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
So I guess it's normal because it's like it's not vocational, right?
I would guess. I don't really know the the history there, but
that
that
like-
would be my guess.
Is that like the school Lyndon Johnson went to? A
Yeah,
teacher's
he
college?
went to Southwest Texas State Teachers College.
I see.
Which I think eventually becomes Texas State. And he signs some education reform there, actually. 100 years in the future.
All right.
Well,
Real Robert Caro hours right here.
When is it coming out, Bob?
God damn it, Bob. I need another book.
I would love to read another book. So, obviously, as a theme here, black people are just totally fucking ignored. Actually, Oberlin, where Lena Dunham went, I believe, started as an integrated school and then eventually became segregated. But it did educate a lot of women, so that's not a fucking...
So it's impossible to say if
Lena
it's good or
Dunham.
not.
Lena Dunham, baby.
Yeah, I think we should go for like the Red Scare angle on this, which is like educating women is a mistake. Shouldn't do it. only leads to trouble. They get podcasts.
Women actually make up a ton of enrollment by percentage after the Civil War, although there's this kind of persisting myth that women only go to college to find a husband. Because why would anyone want to learn more things?
Yeah.
Learning's dumb. It's for nerds.
It's true. So one of the big shifts, I don't think that gets talked about a lot, but towards kind of the modern university as we know it in America, is actually the Great Depression, which wipes out a ton of funding for schools, a lot of whom didn't rely on philanthropy at the time, but instead like money from state grants, the government, and all that sort of stuff. But obviously no one had any money.
Schools should be funded.
Yeah, exactly. My dad went to UMass for like $8. Not during the Great Depression. He's not that old, but
yeah, but he missed out on the opportunity to go to UMass and like live in a dorm with like the name of a wealthy pedophile on it.
Oh no, he probably did. I'd have to ask him, but this was like 1964. So that was back when UMass was just like a collection of huts in Amherst.
Yeah. It's a hut, but the hut is called like Epstein Hall.
Probably.
The sort of hunter-gatherer university.
What do you think agricultural schools are, man? It's like when all these people get mad about like, not to give Penn State kids the benefit of the doubt, but when townies are just like, I can't believe the kids are being obnoxious. I'm like, yeah, it was founded in the middle of nowhere for a fucking reason.
Bizarre experience I had with Penn State. I have to get this in here. Although we said we're not talking about fraternities. I always said when I was in college, you'd have to pay me to set foot in a fraternity house, right? So after college, I worked for this architectural historic restoration firm for a while, right? One of our jobs was out at Penn State University at a fraternity house, right? So, we went out there and they paid me to set foot in a fraternity house. And I was like, damn. I won. Anyway, that's my
versus
story.
Greek life. Yeah.
They paid me to go in there.
Yeah, it's obvious. Yeah, fraternities and sororities do not exactly have a shining record on race. I mean, just a few years ago, there was a huge controversy in Alabama because sororities were not admitting black women. And actually, St. Joe's. This is anecdotal, but also one of the sororities there basically did not want to admit black women at a Jesuit school.
Much like the HBCUs, you get black organizations in parallel. Like Alpha Kappa Alpha doesn't come from nowhere, right? You end up with black fraternities and sororities. You end up with Jewish fraternities and sororities, Asian fraternities and sororities, and like because this is like replicating these power structures, they don't evolve in the same ways in the same times. So you end up with like often really bad hazing in this institution that was designed to be there for something that was not inclusive in and of itself. It rules.
Yeah, either Florida A&T or North Carolina A&T, their band hazed one of their members to death just a few years ago at HBCU. So yeah, Student organizations were a mistake. Drum major, there we go.
Or like fucking like branding pledges and stuff.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
I mean, like I'm not gonna kink shame anybody, but that doesn't seem like the most enthusiastic consent to me.
Yeah, especially in the United States, Beta and SAE have a funny habit of killing their pledges a little too regularly, to the point where SAE had to just get
you can
rid
have
of rushing.
one, that's okay. But like,
people
when
died
it's a
in freak
regular
accidents
thing
or whatever. But yeah, I mean that's what killed off fraternities for the large part at Penn State was the Beta basically killed a kid.
There's a fantastic Atlantic article about how fraternities keep killing kids, not in the hazing way, but in the other way, which is like they get drunk and they fall off a balcony and they break their spine in 27 places or something. And this happens like a lot. It's fascinating because it really goes into like the procedures that like on a national level fraternities have of, you know, don't talk to the cops, don't say anything to anyone, and call the like national hotline for a drunk kid fell off my balcony.
Yep.
It rules.
That happened in Florida State a few years ago. And I remember one of the responses being, and I'm quoting directly here, fraternity responding to a request for comment by saying, "We're not suspended, you're suspended." Which,
future Supreme Court justices all.
I was about to say, yeah.
Tika Drexel got hit with what, the 5-year ban for hazing and sexual assault and all sorts of vile things.
I thought it was for selling cocaine and not being discreet about it.
Oh, was that cocaine out of the house? I couldn't remember amongst all
they
the fucking
got
rape
suspended for
allegations.
something that was cool as opposed to something that isn't cool.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
happened to a fraternity at Temple back in the 90s. Yeah, don't sell coke out of the house. I can't stress that enough.
They did all the bad stuff, but they got suspended for the cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, do not sell coke out of your frat house. All right, you can go anywhere on campus. Don't do it out of a frat house.
Depressing looking, all the fraternity houses. They're all like very nice houses occupied by the worst people. Oh, so one thing I was very confused about when I was at Penn State in that fraternity house is apparently some fraternities just have a house mom who just makes all the food for all the kids.
Yep, or
That's
chefs,
weird.
especially in the South. Oh yeah, South and the big state schools in the Northeast.
That's a slavery thing. I know a slavery thing. That's a slavery thing.
She also made me and my coworker food when we were out there looking at the house to figure out the structural issues, and the nice buffalo chicken wrap. It was very nice.
What are the structural issues? Too many drunk kids falling off the balconies to like damage the foundation.
There was enough beer that had been spilled on the hardwood floor that it was affecting the joists underneath. And I believe one time my coworker had gone out there. He was like an old guy. He's like 60 years old. He's from Shamokin, Pennsylvania. Salt of the earth, coal miner's son. Went into a basement room, and there was a shoring pole in the middle of the room, and he was very confused why there was a shoring pole, just a single one in the middle of the room, right? And that he had the other intern there with him at the time, and she had to explain to him that's not that the shoring pole is not being used for shoring. He was like, "Oh, okay."
We have to protect cause at all costs.
Yes.
Next slide, please.
Kaz was cool.
All right, here's where we won the war. So you see undefeated back-to-back World War champs, baby. You guys might have healthcare and free college, but you would be speaking German if it weren't for us. So you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
So the GI Bill, which, interestingly enough, and I didn't know this until today, Roosevelt wanted to be means tested.
Oh god, FDR sucks so bad.
Fucking liberals.
Goddamn liberals.
I feel like I say this every time he comes up, but my problem with FDR is that like he was just there to do the minimum necessary amount of liberalism to like forestall an active revolution. And like, I feel like we would have been so much better off with Longism, where it's just like it's insanely
every
corrupt.
Man a king, baby.
Yeah, every man a king. Everybody is bribing each other constantly. Everybody has a fake job, which we get paid twice for under the table. I don't see what's wrong with this.
Nothing.
Yeah, absolutely nothing.
So after World War One, we treated vets like garbage.
Were there a lot of vets who were not white, incidentally?
World War One? Oh, there's a lot of non-white vets in every fucking war. But yes. But this, thankfully, here, once in American history, everybody gets fucked over basically the same for about 10 years. So if you want to learn more, you can look up the Bonus Army. That time, General MacArthur fired on his own citizens.
MacArthur was a piece of shit.
Oh,
yeah. Garbage human being.
100%.
Yeah.
And so was Patton, and I'm so tired of hearing people lionize Patton. He would have had no problem with the extermination camps, and it was just that the Germans were running them. That was the problem he had with it. So we treat vets like shit after World War One. There's the Bonus Army. Obviously, there's a massive economic collapse in which a bunch of veterans continue to get fucked over. So the American Legion and the VFW are formed to kind of prevent that and lobby for cheap housing, tuition for returning vets. Of course, this also fucks over black people in terms of getting mortgages and things like that, because of course it does.
And much like FDR, it's the institutionally just about acceptable, right? You can have a VFW so long as you don't have a bonus army.
Right, exactly. So in 1965, the Higher Education Act passes, thanks to America's greatest president, Lyndon Baines Johnson. I will die on this hill.
Well, he would be perfectly comfortable with that.
Which
you fortunate son.
What was that?
You fortunate son.
Yeah. Higher proportion of Vietnam vets went to college than did World War II vets using the GI Bill. It's something like 58%. But
I love the idea that irrespective of the horror inflicted upon millions of people, the Vietnam War is ultimately a very roundabout way of getting a communications degree.
Yeah, hey man, we didn't technically lose the Vietnam War, we just didn't win it.
You learned through the Vietnam War which parts of the war not to film.
Yeah. We just play all of Apocalypse Now at the end of this. So it makes education more accessible kind of in quotes, work study, stuff like that. And next slide, please. All right, Title IX, which universities have been fucking up since it was implemented.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I want to clear up a common misconception right fucking now. The bill does not mention sports. Okay? The bill does not mention sports. Yes. Collegiate sports were affected. The bill does not mention sports. I feel like my dad.
Does it mention sports?
No. Signed by our second greatest president, Richard Nixon.
He created the EPA. He opened relations with China.
Man, you just really like some incremental reform. Yeah,
Nixon is basically to the left of Bernie Sanders. Honestly,
that is depressingly true.
Yeah, it is true.
Also,
Nixon's more entertaining.
Yeah, it's been a while since we last had a really paranoid president, which is one
who was willing to go out and just scream at these goddamn hippies.
Nixon's back.
Who turned out to be bad after all.
Yeah, imagine being the kind of guy who's so paranoid that you record audio of yourself and then you inadvertently distribute it to a bunch of people. Just audio of yourself talking is just people are going to be interested in your meetings with your friends that you just say some dumb bullshit in. Just imagine that. Imagine anybody doing that. Insane.
He was the first guy to be righteously angry at the boomers, though.
That is true. Yeah.
Get in line, you stupid fucking hippies.
Nah, I'm with Hunter S. Thompson. They should have fired him into the sea through a storm drain.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a big fan of the Jews was Nixon, but neither is anybody else, so.
That's the most depressing, like, you take what you can get kind of thing.
Yeah. As long as I'm not being literally marched to death camps. So Title IX is kind of one of the groundworks for a lot of what universities are dealing with today in terms of sexual harassment and assault allegations and how bad they constantly fuck it up.
Mm-hmm. So Title IX, right? It's a federal law, a federal code, right? To get public funding as a university, you have to obey this thing that says that you're not discriminating against anybody on the basis of sex.
Right. Grove City College fought that in 1988, but yes.
And if you are like discriminating against someone by sex, not only can you like have to pay them damages, but the feds can just yank your funding.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So in Alexander v. Yale, which is, I believe, a court case settled in 1980, that's the first court case to use Title IX to establish that sexual harassment could be considered sex discrimination and therefore was illegal. So this is kind of the precursor to a lot of like what we've heard in the last decade about how badly schools have fucked this up. I'm not gonna be able to get through all of these. I think we all know, a lot of these stories.
Yeah, it's an episode in itself, at least.
But I did want to talk about some of the maybe more well-known cases and really kind of talk about like what universities did or didn't do. So there's one of the really famous ones is Angie Epifano files a suit in 2012 against Amherst College. She was raped. She eventually goes to the school because she's obviously having nervous breakdowns. Her assaulter is kind of coming after her in like eating halls and stuff like that. Amherst basically forces her into a psych ward for 5 days after saying essentially like, how do you even know you were raped? Kind of blaming her for basically being a troublemaker.
And this was in 2012 and not 1912.
This was 2012.
The only other institution I can think of that is like on record established as having forced somebody into a psychiatric inpatient setting in order to like stop them from embarrassing them in recent memory is the NYPD. That's how bad that is.
I have they shall remain nameless, but I have a friend who I went to school with who was also forced into a psych ward by the school after being bullied and harassed by some former friends of theirs for months on end. And like I said, I don't really want to get too far into it, but this is not exactly an uncommon occurrence. It was actually right around 2012 as well, and it ruined their college experience. Obviously we all know people this has happened to. I have a few friends who have done a lot of writing about it, who have talked about what schools like Temple or Drexel have done, which is basically nothing. Roz and I have a war story maybe we can tell later about not something this egregious, but something pretty gross that Drexel elected to not do anything about. Roz, if you want to tell that story, we can. If you don't, we can also not do it. But
I'll give the short version, I guess, which was that I was doing senior design at Drexel, which is the final project, and one of my senior design partners was pretty severely sexually harassing. I don't know if it breaches into sexual assault. One of my friends at an off-campus event. And I was fucking furious at him for it. And I went to the Title IX office to file a complaint, and, I was brought into a meeting with some of the people who ran the civil engineering senior design program who were like, basically like, well, we don't want to do anything about it. And they didn't do anything about it. And, I had to present my goddamn senior design alongside this person. It's very, very frustrating. It's like, I prefer not to deal with,
sexual predators.
It was very very demeaning. It was very much like it was not a pleasant experience. You know, it felt pointless. It felt kind of, you know, it felt like almost like I felt embarrassed about it afterwards, and I shouldn't feel embarrassed about it. Like the guy clearly violated boundaries, but it didn't affect anything. It didn't result in any positive outcome. It didn't result in a negative outcome either, I suppose. But you know, it was just like I have to go out and, you know, spill my feelings about this event which occurred, and nothing happened because of it.
I mean, have you considered, like, on the equal and opposite side to this, all like 17,000 of the extremely well-funded websites that are like, my son is the only person in the entire history of the American university system to have been falsely accused under Title IX, and this is
your son's probably a rapist.
Yeah,
a rapist.
Well, that too. Yeah, but like, and every single time it's like, oh well, his dad, who is a lawyer, like just has an enormous thing which succeeds in bullying the school into backing down, and then they go on this crusade about how it cost them a year and it's a permanent black mark and they'll never be able to get into the Supreme Court now, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. There's, I think, a pattern that I really do want to discuss, and Roz hit on it, but this kind of deliberate indifference. The University of Colorado had and deliberate indifference. I don't mean in an active cover-up situation, because we'll get there with Baylor and Penn State, but
it's more that you don't want to do work and you resent anybody who's making you conduct, because the universities have to conduct these investigations themselves, right? And there's no there's not really a standard of proof, which is the thing that all of the like Innocence Project stuff harps on. But like, academics really don't want to do it. They don't want to be cops, and they're not good at it. There's
a preponderance, or was a preponderance of evidence standard. Up until the Trump administration, in their infinite wisdom, rolled that back, because who gives a shit if people get raped in a place they should feel safe?
MAGA.
Yeah, exactly. So the University of Colorado settled at one point, I think, for $2.8 million after, you know, the same pattern where a woman, I believe several women were repeatedly raped by members of the football team. Arizona State expelled a football player for repeated sexual harassment, then readmitted him. And
they do that shit all the time.
Constantly. And like I said, we'll get there to kind of how this plays into the larger picture. But, you know, I know when I was at Temple, people who were raped, and the school, I mean, just sat on its fucking hands. And it was as clear as day that they could have done something, and they chose not to. And at Drexel, and at every place, I mean, everyone I know, you know, literally, I think every woman I know, basically, except for maybe a couple exceptions, has been sexually assaulted, especially at school. And it's so fucking embarrassing that these schools, with their more or less infinite wealth, refuse to take any sort of meaningful action on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, incidentally, fun fact. It was, I think it was Human Rights Campaign managed to get a federal circuit court to rule that sex in the phrasing of Title IX includes, like, transgender status.
Yes, which as of, I believe, 2010.
Yeah, and then that was also rolled back immediately by the Trump administration, in as much as they can roll that back.
Right, and of course it was. I mean,
yeah.
We should also talk about the Cleary Act of, I believe, 1995. Jeanne Cleary is murdered in her residence hall in 1986 at Lehigh University. And this kind of highlights a pattern of universities that just weren't reporting crimes. Just weren't reporting them. Laura Dickinson, a student at, I believe, Eastern Michigan, was murdered as well. Schools managed to not do anything, including about Larry Nassar at Michigan State. I mean, this is a fucking pattern. And one of the things I really want to harp on here is, like, I think the majority of our listeners are probably out of school. But if there's any of you, you know, under 18, I believe, friend of the pod, Jeremy Zoric, or Jeremy, I believe his last name.
If you have like a junior, well, there's your problem badge.
I know he's
Junior
attending
Pennsylvania Secret Service badge.
Yes, yeah, you're like a Pennsylvania Secret Service explorer.
trainee.
Yeah.
It's much better than the Boy Scouts. Much more interesting.
Well, at least they're not bankrupt. At least we're not bankrupt yet.
Not bankrupt. You don't have to go on shitty campouts.
Yeah, we'll teach you how to hotwire a van.
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully. I think you could come to my house and do it. But I do want to say, like, you should always fucking hold these institutions accountable because they're not going to fucking do it for themselves. They can't be bothered. And this kind of, not exclusively, but I think does lead into the next slide, please.
Oh, and incidentally, just as a quick aside,
sort of,
even once you are out, right? You're still gonna get the emails. You're still gonna be like, they're gonna hit you up for money.
Don't give them
they're gonna
money.
hit you up for money. They're gonna hit you up to go to dinners and like put your name and things. Do not let them do this.
A friend of mine attended the school in Connecticut, a private school in Connecticut, and was raped, I believe, her third day on campus, and has written extensively about it. She's a really talented writer. And the college will constantly hit her up for money, and I really appreciate that she always tweets back like or texts back like, yeah, what are you gonna handle like your buttload of Title IX cases you've been doing nothing about for years. I'm actually also going to take this time to talk about the time I was arrested by the University of Pennsylvania. Bastards. So I was coming home from the bar, and I was 2 blocks from my house, and I really had to pee. We could actually edit the whole thing out, but I kind of want to point this out.
No, go for
it. So I peed against a wall, which, like, in hindsight, like, not a good idea. Like, it was shitty of me. But it was on an Amazon building. So,
so that's praxis.
Well, that was the old Chestnut Street Railway car house, now owned by Amazon. That'll be a Franklin episode sometime in like 30, 50,
whatever, 20, whatever.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew I was sunk. So I started running my mouth at the cops, right? Because, like,
as you do.
Yeah, I know I'm going to be arrested. Like, I know that, like, I'm belligerent because I'm drunk, and I'm annoyed because I, like, am a block from my house.
and you just hate cops.
Why didn't you wait? It's just like, listen, I didn't want to pee my pants. I really had to pee. Okay, like, I should be able to pee where I want, more or less. So I'm getting arrested by the Penn police, and I thought it was a good idea at that point to point out Penn's incredible Title IX backload and refusal to do anything on campus. And then the cops said the N-word and accused me of being a rapist, which I thought was pretty interesting. And then I was in the drunk tank for like 6 hours, and then I went home.
Cops are so cool.
Yeah,
like this is like a thing, right? Like the British university is very bad, often for very similar reasons, but they don't tend to have their own cops, and as such, that's like. Well, I feel like that's an important organizational thing. Is like when you as an institution become evil, you just start growing cops like tumors.
Yes.
And you just start generating cops. It's why, like, Russia has so many, like, special cop units in, like, the Ministry of Economics or some shit. Is it just, like, you become a cop? It's cool. We haven't got there yet. But I look forward to that when we do.
Drexel had a preponderance of police because there were so many overlapping jurisdictions. Because there were the Drexel cops. There's the Philadelphia cops. The UPenn cops could also get you, but because of everything that was running through campus, you could also get picked up by the Amtrak cops. You get picked up by the Conrail cops. You could get picked up by the CSX or Norfolk Southern cops or the Amtrak cops. The railroad cops,
and the SEPTA cops, and the Philly cops.
Yeah, the railroad cops usually left you alone unless you were fucking with railroad shit. But if you fuck with railroad shit, they would beat your ass.
I want to do some speedrun shit and see how many different law enforcement agencies I can get arrested by in like a day.
That's I think one of the problems, just like in and of itself, is especially around Philly with so many schools. It's just all these police departments overlap, and the university ones basically aren't accountable to anybody.
No, you have a tiny one. Like
normal cops aren't accountable to anybody, but
you see this with UC. Do you remember that video of the UC Irvine guy just going down the line? Chris has stories about Occidental. They're not even cops. They're like campus safety, but they still act like cops. So they'll just fucking drive around in a little golf cart with a yellow light and then stop you 6 times in the same night. It's cool.
Yeah. Friendly reminder. By and large, public safety for universities don't have powers of arrest in the United States, so go fucking wild.
That's the thing. You can tell them to fuck off and keep walking, but they'll just follow you in the little golf cart, and you just tell them to fuck off every couple of blocks or so.
Yeah, highly recommend doing that. Yeah, pen can blow me. And the thing is that I had to pay the city, so I got arrested by Penn cops who said the N-word, and then I had to pay the city whatever $250. To swearsy realsies, I was really going to be a good boy and not pee on any more Amazon property.
Hey, but at least you didn't get hit with a sex offender thing.
No, I just got hit with drunk and disorderly, so that's not that bad. Exactly.
You could be a landlord, Raytheon working sex offender wife.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's some people on Twitter. There's some people on the fucking internet.
Jesus.
Oh god.
You have to move to a sex offender friendly neighborhood, which is apparently much more tolerant.
That was my favorite. One of those tweets was like, I actually seek out sex offender registries so I can see cool people to live nearby too.
Sex offending is just being open-minded,
Well, we're gonna get that with the Joe Paterno case, so just hold on, baby.
Christ. Okay.
All right. So the title of this slide is "College Sucks."
All right, Belushi.
So why is college so expensive, everybody?
Is it because it's they're all just real estate hedge funds that occasionally provide classes on the side?
You could just say Drexel University, but yes.
We have a bunch of slides on that one coming up.
But the one I know about, and I don't know why I know about it, but I know about it as NYU, because NYU owns an obscene amount of property in New York City, and that's basically all it does. It exists to maximize returns on property and buy property, and the fact that classes happen is kind of incidental to it.
It's just like Trinity Church.
Yeah, but that's true for a lot of modern universities at this point, just because they realize it's profitable to be a landlord or be a real estate investment trust or what have you. But a lot of it is that we have, at least according to one New York Times article, which I can link, at the University of California system, as an example, the amount of administrators has grown 211%.
Wow, they must be solving those Title IX cases 200 times faster.
Yeah, you would think, but no, they're not.
It's like much how the hospital, the more floors of administrators a hospital has, the quicker you get that bill, and therefore the lower the bill's going to be.
Oh, exactly.
Yes.
It's worth noting people kind of go after professors for being paid too much, but it's administration, man. Those are the bastards you want. These are not the toys you're looking for.
There's 6 people in one bit. If you look up, there's another map of the United States we can look at, is the most highly paid public employee in each state. That.
In 40 states, it's a sports coach.
Yeah, and in the other 10, it's the dean of a medical school.
Yeah.
Yep. So it is a handful of people. It's the guy who makes the footballs go gets paid a lot, whereas the guy who teaches you about, I don't know, Shakespeare or whatever really doesn't, and probably works at Whole Foods.
I believe the highest paid professor in the United States was at W&L for a while. I don't recall exactly what he did. All I know is the family said he hosted really good parties.
So he was a fundraiser, basically.
I think he also did professing.
That does explain one thing, which is the growth of the celebrity professor, where you just hire Neil Ferguson is the perfect example of this. of where you hire somebody who's like been on TV a few times or like has name recognition, and then you get them to teach, which often they're not good at, but they bring in the money because you can go to your donors and say, look, it's that guy that you recognize off the TV. He's here and he will meet you and he'll sign a book for you. And look at how well we must be teaching our kids if, you know, we have this guy that you know about teaching them.
Yeah, I mean, especially now, you know, it's all going to be like the highest paid professor is going to be fucking Michio Kaku or what's his face?
Mm-hmm.
Or Henry Kissinger.
Who is it? Black Science Man.
Neil deGrasse
Tyson. Yeah.
Is he a professor? Because I thought he just ran the planetarium.
I think he actually is, but I'm not sure. We'll check that.
Yeah,
we won't check that. We will not make any effort to edit any of this in any way.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's
a bonus
all, like,
episode. You get our unvarnished opinions.
Universities are a racket. I mean, that's fucking obvious. There's no downward pressure on costs. States don't fucking fund it anymore. You know, you have two like places like Sodexo or what's the one in Philly?
Aramark
that run all the concessions or whatever else. There's stuff even that's really goofy. Like, as an example, the University of Oregon's head football coach receives part of his salary, at least from revenue from concession sales, as part of his contract at football games. Why the hell not?
I love to like buy some nachos and like tip the coach. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, James Franklin, who is Penn State's football coach, makes $5.7 million a year. And Penn State is never going to win another national title, so it's basically pointless.
No, but it is going to give a bunch of young men brain injuries. And so
leaders of men, that's bullshit.
They'll all join engineering podcasts.
I like that university sports is so monstrous that it's managed to turn the direction of the American university in reverse, where you pay, instead of like the state paying you to make its children smarter, the children now pay the university to make them dumber. That rules. That is genius, if nothing else.
That is
absolutely. Plus, you get to watch some like really good NCAA tape out of it.
Well, speaking of which,
you can get dumber through business school too. You don't have to play football. I'll talk about that in a bit.
I just want to be a monkey of average intelligence who wears the suit. That's why I decided to transfer to business school. Next slide, please.
I already moved to the next slide.
Yeah. Okay. I hope you guys like this.
You really did it like I was anticipating you on that one.
I'm glad you like this. Yeah, I didn't want to use their logo because I didn't want to get sued. So I am here to say, fuck the NCAA, death to the NCAA. This institution, I cannot say it enough, is pure fucking evil.
The Iranian National Guard to the NCAA.
Yes.
the NCAA they're like the Islamic State to the NFL's Al Qaeda, right? you think you've hit moral rock bottom, and then these guys show up in a bunch of NCAA suits, just all in the back of a Toyota Land Cruiser for some reason. They just roll up, and you're like, oh man, that's not good.
What's the XFL in this metaphor?
Agents of Chaos. They're like they're not the. I want to say like Assad, right? Like they're bad, and we know they're bad, but they keep winning, and in the way that they win, they irritate people worse than them.
But they objectively have not won. They've closed down a second time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is what I get for not following XFL news.
No, there's going to be no 2021 season apparently. Which is disappointing.
Huh.
I was excited.
Yeah.
XFL.
XFL.
I had
maybe they're like one
XFL.
of the like maybe they're like Jabhat al-Nusra or something. I don't know.
Ugh.
This is the most discourse poisoned thing we can do since the hat of which we don't speak is me trying to map football organizations onto actors in the Syrian civil war.
I like it.
How many different ways can we can be canceled in various exotic ways?
Oh yeah, we're getting the way that we're gonna get cancelled is one that we won't even have thought about. It'll be something like in passing, like Liam pissing on a building is gonna be what got us cancelled, and
Sorry,
like
everybody.
all of us.
Yeah, it's gone. Pissing in public, not good. That basically makes you what's his face? Proud Boys guy.
Gavin McInnes.
Gavin McInnes. Yeah,
McInnes.
he was the piss in public guy before he was the Proud Boys guy.
He's had a storied career.
That was
That's what worked
Vice
for
was
it.
a good magazine,
it was
which we all took very seriously.
it was a funny video. It was a very strange video. It was a funny video. And then he started a far right or nationalist organization of
I
angry
hate when that
men. I
happens.
was like, I don't understand how you go from point A to point B on this one.
This is what
Yeah.
happens when you go on 4chan and not something awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, the something awful route to fascism is a much more sedentary one. By the time you want to get up and start a Freikorps, you're just welded to your chair.
Or you've posted an LF and you're a Maoist now, which is much more acceptable.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring back LF.
All right, so the central lie of the NCAA is that there's this paradise for the American ideal of amateurism and love of the game, and that's why the kids play.
Yeah, same
and
shit the
so on and so
Olympics
forth.
pulls.
Bullshit,
and
bullshit
fuck
nonsense.
the IOC
It's bullshit,
also.
bullshit nonsense. It's bullshit nonsense. So well into the 50s, students were pretty much paid openly. In fact, in 1939, Pitt Panthers, their football team, the freshmen on that team, went on strike because they were not being paid enough, as much as not being paid equally to their upperclassmen teammates.
Yes.
Like, this is like it. Like the NCAA's kind of origin myth is absolutely one of the most fucking awful ones that I can think of in the United States. I mean, obviously there are terrible ones, but it's just so fucking blatant. In the 50s, the NCAA kind of Marbury versus Madison's itself, and creates a whole bunch of powers it didn't have before.
I love a constitutional law reference.
Thank you.
I like Marbury versus Madison as a verb.
Yeah, it creates a whole bunch of powers for itself out of whole cloth. There are two scandals. Kentucky is caught in a point shaving scandal, and what that means is basically they're scoring fewer points on purpose to the benefit of gamblers on the game. And the College of William and Mary inflated grades so that it could take on football powerhouses like Oklahoma or whoever the hell else.
That rules. My favorite point shaving thing is a cricket thing where Australia almost lost a test match to Pakistan, where Pakistan was being paid to throw the game, and they
Jesus
almost
Christ.
won anyway. It rules
that's
so hard.
That's
William
incredible.
and Mary had to inflate grades, and when they stopped, you know what happened?
What happened, Ross?
Well, all the students started killing themselves.
Oh,
Very high pressure environment down there at William and Mary, apparently. I don't know if we can keep that one.
Well, I mean, Penn does the same thing, and at the same time, like, there's a rash of students who kill themselves.
Oh, that's like baked in. It's like the
universities don't fucking do anything about it.
The university will try to make you kill yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
It's basically accurate. Yeah,
Yeah,
it breaks you like,
certainly
to within an inch of your life. It's bizarre. I don't understand like why they don't do anything about it.
And for
you know,
nothing,
they say
right?
like nice things about, I will, we have like a therapy dog or some shit. It's like, maybe you should do something to make this a less high pressure environment rather than having like, I don't know, big structural Bailey you can cuddle like once a week. This is some bullshit.
Maybe
like you should
maybe
just
instead of having like a year to see a therapist who will tell you how to do some breathing exercises or something, maybe you should not make it so that you need a 4-year degree in order to get any job anywhere.
I was close to cracking at the end of my Drexel academic career.
I'm cracking right now, man.
I did like try and seek the counsel of the campus therapist, right? And it was like, yeah, we have an appointment, you can get in like 6 months or some garbage. And I was like,
this is the thing, right? Communism is a failed system because you have to wait for things.
Exactly. I'm like, all right, I'll just self-medicate with alcohol, whatever.
Yeah. I got to see the rumored campus therapist at Glasgow. And what she told me, because I was talking about like having this fucking anxiety disorder that I have, and she was like, "Have you tried wearing like pure copper or magnetite jewelry?"
Jesus Christ, what?
And at that point, I was like, "Yeah, there's no actual like qualification requirements to do this job, huh? It's therapist with a small t."
Add a drop of lavender to your bath.
She was a nice lady. She made her own green juice, which she like brought in every day, and like she was doing some really genuinely fascinating sounding legal research, and she had just been like deputized to do therapy for all of the undergrads who wanted to kill themselves.
Oh my God.
I don't. It wasn't fair on her either with her fucking crazy jewelry theories, but like, yeah, no, that's what there was. So.
Yeah, I also, Jesus Christ, Temple's therapy center, Tuttleman Counseling is an absolute fucking joke and resulted in two people I know being sent to psych wards. Drexel's counseling center is responsible for my friend being sent to a psych ward. The schools are absolutely fucking failing to maintain, I mean, basic support systems.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean that they're causing the problems. Like it's not just that people entering university tend to be at a time in their lives when responses to stress like are more heightened, and that mental illnesses that would otherwise have been latent become more emergent. It's not just that. That's some of it. Some of it is the fact that university, as it's organized now, makes everyone want to kill themselves.
Yes.
That seems to me not a good way of organizing higher education, but what the fuck do I know, right? Because I don't have a degree, so fuck me.
Well, I have a degree and I agree with you, so there you go.
Yes, exactly. So I also have a degree and I agree with you. I don't.
Two noted scholars.
Yes, I don't. My advice is to go to trade school.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Where you'll probably still be miserable, but you also probably won't kill yourself.
Yeah, you'll also make like it's the only way left to make money is to be like an HVAC guy.
Oh yeah, you get to work with cool machines. You get to like weld shit. You know, it's like it's
one thing I will say is that in a liberal arts college or like a traditional university, you do have a much lower risk of having your arm ripped off. Not zero, but like lower. That is the one thing that the university has going for it.
Unless you're that girl at Yale who died with whatever, the loom or something.
It was it was a lathe.
It was a lathe.
No, yeah, you should.
the loom was sounding much grislier to me, to be honest.
No,
a lathe I can understand. That's just a regular lathe accident.
She got her hair caught in the lathe, and
you could figure out the rest. I think.
Did not. Well, the best possible outcome was that it would scalp her, which it did not, and she got turned into pasta sauce.
Oh boy,
not so good.
No, yeah, you can have a lot of fun in a shop, huh?
Sure.
We're gonna have a very mixed reaction to this episode. I can tell.
Yeah. So in the 50s, people thought the TV would kill college sports because people were morons. So the NCAA actually voted to like outlaw televised college games because basically they thought, well, people won't go to the games, let's just be able to watch for free on TV, so we won't get any money. And then
geniuses.
Walter Byers, so the guy who has machinated all this, negotiates for the NCAA with TV networks. Eventually, like big football schools revolt against this. The NCAA continues to make a ton of money from television contracts via March Madness. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. I don't have these in the notes. I think we can talk about how the NCAA fucks over kids, right? Because as I mentioned, there's a kid from Rice who got cut from the football team, and they therefore yanked his scholarship. So it's like, how are a lot of these poor black kids supposed to pay for college now?
Yeah, the poor black kids who they're also giving concussions.
Right, exactly. Yes. And the argument is always, well, they're being paid in their scholarship, but it's like, yeah, but not fucking relative to their labor.
Yeah, it's an indenture, right? It's,
right, exactly.
We said slavery earlier. It's not precisely slavery. What it is indentured servitude.
And we also know that universities, like a lot of the diplomas these kids receive, are they don't ever go to class. This happened in the University of Georgia, where a professor whose name I can't recall, I'll find it, was fired basically because she refused to participate in grade inflation. And the university basically hounded her out, and she sued and won whatever $2.6 million. And Georgia basically had to explain
compared to what they get from the football team.
Right,
So
and
who gives
Georgia
a shit?
basically had to explain, like, we got to stay on a level playing field, and that means, like, basically a winking acknowledgement that, like, these are not schools; they are football teams with schools attached, especially in the SEC.
There's two genders of university: real estate fund or football team.
And I mean, that's not to say schools in the SEC are bad, but that's absolutely true. Sometimes basketball schools. Sometimes you forgot about Kentucky, yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty fucking clear that the schools essentially make all the money off these kids and then dispose of them when they're finished with them. Kids can't make money off their likenesses. There was Shabazz Napier, who played for UConn, played UConn basketball about 6-7 years ago, and is now in the NBA. Talked about a lot of nights he would go to bed hungry because he couldn't afford food because the NCAA had taken away any ability for him to get any sort of stipend for food. So they really do. They exist in this bubble that nobody else lives in, and then they fucking.
We can also talk about the kind of the general hypocrisy of like academic standards as and when it suits the university institution, like plagiarism or like essay writing or anything like that, where it's convenient to the university. It's not just athletes. Like it can be legacies. It can be if you want to keep your exchange student numbers up. There's all kinds of levers you can pull if you work in university administration and you want to like fuck around with things. And that's just, I think, every day. I think that's absolutely accepted.
Yeah, absolutely. Schools, I think, absolutely, it's pretty clear why. I mean, the account, like they do, some Hollywood accounting to make it say, oh, we actually lose money on all these programs, but they fucking don't. As an example, Penn State took in like $165 million 2 years ago.
Oh, fuck. Are we going to talk about Felicity Huffman also?
We can.
And university admissions, because that's the other fun thing.
Yeah, we might as well. Go for it.
With this, so if you've been living under a rock, basically what happened was the feds fucking uncovered a like genuine interstate conspiracy to get rich fail sons and fail daughters into good universities, which had a lot of celebrities attached to it, most notably Felicity Huffman, who I think briefly went to jail over this. And it was like sort of focused around this idea of like you could exploit disability accommodations by like a combination of the right forms. You could be like, yeah, my daughter has bad brain, and then through that get like 3 times the exam time and get to have the exam totally unsupervised. So you can just cheat. And the worst part was a lot of these kids had no fucking clue, right? That their parents were photoshopping them into things to be like, yeah, she plays volleyball, so we can put that on the statement. And it's like, it's so grim. And it's so revealing of the role of the university as this like machine for preserving intergenerational like legitimacy and wealth. That like this kid who doesn't even know if they want to go to college or where they want to go to college has had this whole package arranged for them where somebody will write the heartfelt personal essay and somebody will like do all of the like volunteering and shit for them just so they can like tick off another box. It's fucked.
It absolutely is fucked, and that does really speak, I think, to just the nature of like how clear it is when you talk about schools like Harvard, who are also located in that. I believe someone sold a coach or something a house far below market value, and then his kid was on the team the next year. Even though by all accounts the kid was miserable. It's also the NCAA, but really does, I think. The kids aren't entitled to their likeness, but the NCAA can make money off the kids' likenesses. You have, quote, scandals where kids are maybe being paid or the families are being paid, but these universities can do the same thing and just are never punished because it fucks with their ad revenue or NCAA revenue if they don't.
Yeah, universities are insanely corrupt, is what you should be getting from this.
Yes. Talking of which,
the NCAA is the worst because it's the giant rat that makes all of the rules.
Nakedly so, yeah. And they just don't give a fuck. And now, the NCAA might have to compete with alternative paths for kids to enter pro leagues. And it's worth noting that, the pro leagues are totally in cahoots with this. The players' associations want to keep the kids in college because that means that not as many of them can enter on cheap rookie contracts, dethroning kind of the senior players.
Yep. It's fucked.
It is absolutely fucked. Next slide, please.
Whoosh.
All right, so these are two bastards. So
just a couple of very normal shaped heads.
That's what football does to you. So on the left, we have Joe Paterno. Fuck Penn State.
Fuck Penn State.
Well, he tried.
Yeah. He was fired along with several administrators from Penn State after they covered up sexual abuse by an assistant coach by the name of Jerry Sandusky, possibly as far back as 1988.
Paterno
for years and years. Yeah.
Walked in on him actually abusing a child and did the Grandpa Simpson hat stand thing, just walked right back out again.
Right. And
I'm sorry to walk in on you abusing a child. I'm just going to cover this up. Don't you worry.
And let me just get this out of the way right now. Yes, Paterno did the legal bare minimum in reporting it to Tim Curley, his boss, who should have gone to the police. Paterno also knew that the cops weren't going to do it, that Curley was going to sit on it. Paterno should have gone to police and did not multiple times.
Do you think you ever felt bad, at all? Does it matter?
No. Oh, absolutely. I fucking don't think so. The common defense is always, well, he cared about the football team and the kids on the football team so much, blah, blah, blah,
That's
blah, blah.
insane.
But he literally didn't care about fucking 9-year-olds being raped in showers. No, don't fucking give me that. I don't want to fucking hear Malcolm Gladwell defending Joe fucking Paterno.
Yeah, my question, though, is was Jerry Sandusky even good as a coach? Was he the fucking golden goose that allows you to justify that shit to yourself? Because it seems like he was just kind of he was fine as a coach. He was okay. I don't know how good you'd have to be at football for it to become understandable to cover something like that up, but I don't think he was it, so I don't get it.
I believe that Penn State did win a national title.
Okay.
During his one national title. And he did receive Assistant Coach of the Year awards twice. But
cool.
Yeah, the guy's an absolute fucking scumbag. Joe Paterno knew what was happening and chose not to do anything in order to protect the football team. Joe Paterno is also the fucking guy that filed a lawsuit when someone filed a Freedom of Information Act request to figure out what his actual salary was because Penn State wasn't telling us. Yeah.
There's still a statue of him, right?
I think it's in storage. They may have brought it back out.
They took it down. It's back out now. I've seen it.
I know that people got in a lot of trouble a couple of years ago during the Temple Penn State game when some Temple kids unfurled a banner that said Joe Pa knew. And Joe Pa absolutely knew. And if you have any Penn State fans, alum in the audience, you absolutely fucking know he's guilty. I don't want to hear it.
Yes. If you go down to Happy Valley now, all the bookstores have a bunch of Joe Pa biographies in the window.
Yes.
They still love that guy, even though he covered up for a child rapist.
Yeah, he did. And I mean, the Joe Pa fans and defenders are fucking disgusting, despicable people. And the university, did this kind of half-assed, we know we have to do something sort of deal. But, not nearly enough.
They still have foundation or some shit? They probably did.
Probably.
Yeah. This is a sick system.
Yes.
First thing we got to do, we got to abolish sports. Who's this other guy?
Oh, I actually do want to quote. I just want to quote Joe Paterno. November 8th, I believe the day before he is dismissed, he gives a statement And he says, and I'm quoting verbatim here, the kids who were victims or whatever they want to say, I think we all ought to say a prayer for them. It's a tough life when people do certain things to you.
Yeah, thanks.
And then he turned around to lead the crowd in We Are Penn State cheers. The guy went to his grave believing he had done nothing wrong.
Oh, so this guy never has a bad time with the lathe. There's no justice.
Yeah, Joe Paterno. Fuck Penn State. Not even a little bit joking here. That school should be fucking abolished and run into the ground. And it can become Temple West. And we'll get to how Temple football fucks over people in a minute.
Yeah, I'm about to say, like, the only thing that I'm not certain of is to what extent is this just normal, right? Like,
it's extremely. It is extremely normal. And it's like, there's a whole book by John Krakauer, which I actually read as research for this episode, called Missoula. The subtitle is Rape in the Justice System in a College Town. It's a very good book. And it talks about at the University of Montana, the same thing, basically. Not child sex abuse, but rape after rape is covered up through basically a collaboration of the school and the city or town in which it's located. So the guy on the right here is Art Briles, and he is heinous. All right. Art Briles is a former football coach of Baylor University, which is a Baptist university in Waco, Texas. So we're already off to a flying start.
Yeah.
In 2017, Diane Moskovitz of Deadspin, I believe, broke the story that there had been 52 rapes in 4 years by the football team.
One a month?
Yeah, basically. And we are talking, again, I'm frankly going to leave out some of the very gruesome details.
It's always bad.
But
much like the hazing stuff, like, this is one thing where I am going to, like, attribute some of that to, like, it's young men, and young men do absolutely heinous shit routinely. Especially when, like, it's in a collegial environment, because it becomes this sort of vicious cycle, right? It's very bad. He's absolutely, yeah.
So, okay. In September 2015, 2 Baylor football players are convicted of sexual assault, and there are allegations against other players. So the school, whose chancellor, and I am not making this up at the time, is Ken Starr. Yes, that Ken Starr. Commissioned Pepper Hamilton to do an independent investigation regarding the university's handling of sexual assault, rape, so on and so forth. And the report is brutal. It finds that the university knew these players were raping people basically left and right. I mean, constantly, genuinely. You're talking sexual assault, you're talking, bodily assault, you're talking just like throwing people around rooms. The university sits on it. Art Briles, coach on the right, says, I don't know anything. But it's very clear, based on the report, that he absolutely did, and that Baylor administration absolutely did know. This goes on, for years and years and years under Art Briles and Ken Starr's tenure, and they just do nothing. And the Waco PD just does nothing. There's, they refuse to basically investigate. The university refuses to investigate. There's no discipline for football players. There's a culture of kind of show them a good time with recruits, which included rapes, which included underage drinking, which included basically everything you can think of. It's just the Baylor players kind of defend their teammates. Obviously, that's what's going to happen. But the university was called a hunting ground for sexual predators. Baylor kind of refuses to release the papers they have. Finally, they're forced to. This goes on and on. Like I said, I don't want to not dwell too much, but there's nothing a fucking Engineering Disasters podcast can say other than these institutions have to be held accountable, and they're not going to do it them fucking selves.
Yeah, also football as a sport is like it's a religion down there.
Yes,
that's so we're talking about 2 diseased institutions of the sport of football and the university.
Yeah.
And the way that those things interact is just so
They're bad on their own. They're worse together. Absolutely.
Two shitty tastes that taste even worse. It's a gestalt.
Yes. So you have, Baylor is a D1 team in a big conference, and obviously they don't want to lose that television money. So
Nope.
why would they, they're not incentivized to do the right thing, nor was Penn State, nor was the University of Colorado, nor was the University of Montana, so on and so forth. These schools,
and you can just pick off a list.
You can pick a school. You really can pick a school. But yeah, I mean, this is so common. I don't really have words for it, but other than just is pure fucking evil. And the NCAA basically allows this to happen by virtue of not actually punishing schools, even though it can punish them for, like, it can make Reggie Bush hand back his Heisman football trophy, but they couldn't do a meaningful punishment to Penn State. Penn State should have gotten the death penalty. Baylor should have gotten the death penalty.
Yeah, my the closest thing I have to a political answer to this is abolish college sports, and in the same way as like abolish the police. It's not necessarily that you don't need something like it. I'm not opposed to kids playing football. It's that the institution as it now exists is irredeemable.
Yeah, everyone who's currently involved in college football, except maybe the players, should be barred from ever taking part in college football.
You should just like, I should be able to approach every single like person in coaching, staff, and administration armed with a lathe, and just see what happens.
Most of them have short hair. Nothing's going to happen.
I'll make something happen.
Proud of you, Alice. You get him, sport. So the one thing I do want to say too is that, like, as far as kind of the incident, like, when you have the melding of two essentially extremely greedy institutions, nothing good is going to come out of that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, and this really does speak, I think, to the universities who won't pay these kids, but like then they've got to settle lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, and it's like, where are your fucking priorities?
All
right, next slide, please.
Now that we've thoroughly made ourselves furious,
yes,
yeah,
come on.
Why can't we just go to DeVry? They probably never abused anybody.
They did lose a basketball game, like, what is it, 2:30 to 1.
Yeah, we've all seen John Boyce's YouTube
We're
channel.
serious about success.
Sure you are.
We're serious about success.
We're serious about success.
We're serious about success.
I'm just gonna hang up on this call. All right, Temple University. And Drexel and Penn. Temple University is a school I attended before I graduated from Rutgers. I will say that
you also
Temple
went to Drexel.
Yeah, for a year, actually.
Yeah.
And then I transferred because I couldn't make up my mind.
None of us went to this.
I went to Temple. That's a Temple T.
Yeah, you never went to Penn, though. I just X'd it out.
Oh, okay.
Who's on first slide?
Yes.
I was only looking at it's fine. So all right. Let's talk about Penn first, and let's talk about Philly as a city, actually.
Yeah,
Philly,
I'll bite. What is Philadelphia?
Poor as shit.
Yes.
Philly is the poorest big city in America. And yet we have the University of Pennsylvania and Temple University and Drexel University and St. Joe's University and LaSalle, but who gives a shit about LaSalle? And not Villanova. Again, not Nova. Do you pay wage tax? No, you're not a Philly school.
And University of the Sciences, which, as they always advertise, has the highest average income for graduates of any college in the United States.
I really like when universities advertise with a statistic like that. The one I like here is University of the West of Scotland. The University of the West of Scotland, which I think used to be Paisley College.
Oh, wow.
Went with our graduates have the highest satisfaction rate. And I'm like, yeah, it was great. They're really happy, In the same way that like a free range hen is.
It's
cool.
That's all relative.
I'd rather be a free range hen than a factory farmed hen. I will say that.
Oh, sure.
But we're
that's
all
true.
being factory farmed right now, so you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, let me first talk about Penn. The University of Pennsylvania owns $3.2 billion in property around in Philadelphia. Yes. The endowment is, I don't know the exact number, I believe it is around $15 billion.
Yeah, which is objectively insane. You are the only country in the world that does this. If you look at endowments for like even like the two big universities,
aren't they only like a couple hundred million? Like, and you had like, I mean, you had a 400-year head start.
Yeah, I think Oxford and Cambridge might be in the billions, but they're like the low billions, and that's like they're like a low to mid tier American university, basically.
Harvard's is 40.9.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Mr. Burns, we could use an international airport.
I'll tell you what Glasgow's endowment is, and it's gonna be like something like a state.
Two bottles of Buckfast.
Well, like they do all of the same advanced research. £200 million. So like by now about $200 million.
Ooh.
All of that has to go to restoring the Charles Rennie McIntosh building, or is that Glasgow College? Is that something separate?
No, we've also got like an art museum full of whistlers that we have to like touch up too.
Could be worse. Here in southeastern Pennsylvania, we have the Brandywine Museum, which is just Wyeth paintings.
Oh my god.
We get it. The American landscape is romantic.
It's true. Very true.
Penn has an endowment of $14.65 billion.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So, would you like to know how much they pay in property taxes?
I'm gonna guess zero.
It's
that's the funniest answer.
It is $0.
Huh.
I may actually not be entirely correct on that because I know that they do pay some taxes. Real estate.
That's nice of them.
I believe it would be anywhere where they are not in the special institutional zone and do not have the 10-year tax abatement.
So Morris Arboretum and where else?
The Morris Arboretum is in Montgomery County.
Well, I know, but I don't know if they pay taxes on that.
They probably pay taxes on that one, sure.
And the New Bolton Center, which is their horse farm.
So, like, basically, the university as it exists now is a tax dodge, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Penn basically owns a horse farm, so... oh boy. Okay, so great. Penn doesn't pay taxes in the largest poor city in America. They refuse to do a pilot, what's called a payment in lieu of taxes, insisting that what they do is enough. Of schools in the Ivy League, the two that don't are Penn and Columbia. Penn delenda est.
Watch out for that phrasing.
Yeah, you're gonna get suspended from the podcast.
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
My bad. Well, whatever. This is the bonus episode. I can do whatever I want.
Liam, tell us about Temple football.
Yes.
Oh, do you like that rant? It just says Liam rants.
Yes.
Yes. Please rant.
Cool. Okay, so Temple football is bad. Here's the thing: is that Temple competes in the United States what's called a mid-major conference. We compete in the American Athletic Conference. The best program in that conference any given year is the University of Central Florida, the University of South Florida, Southern Methodist University, and or the University of Houston.
SMU.
Who got a worse penalty than fucking Penn State did just for giving... and they had a cool 80s scandal where they were, like, hiring strippers and paying for Ferraris.
What's wrong with that?
Exactly. We should have that back. More of that kind of scandal, right?
Yeah, the kind of feel good, like, haha, I can't believe you idiots got caught, rather than I can't believe you raped 30 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, you hired sex workers as opposed to raped women.
Yeah, moving
one of these is objectively
is
like it is a contract, which was
it's also it's funny. It's funny.
Would you call it the Bloschel contract?
But by way of a law enforcement comparison, I'll point out the Secret Service's counter assault team getting caught just hiring sex workers in every hotel they went to and just showing up to work just hammered all the time. That rules. That's a good kind of scandal. We would need that kind of scandal.
Imagine
back.
being the poor son of a bitch that has to take a bullet for Eric Trump.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'd be drinking too.
Yeah, exactly. Also, the Ole Miss's former football coach, now at Liberty University, run by the Falwells, hired a bunch of sex workers and did some gross recruiting stuff of his own. I said in full disclosure, an Ole Miss fan. But okay, back to Temple football sucking. So, they compete in a conference that will never go to the college football playoff, which is, frankly, at some point, the only thing that matters. And that's not really Temple's fault. They're in a mid-major conference. They're only ever going to select schools from bigger conferences. But Temple has had this idea since we had our last good season 4 years ago that we should build a football stadium in North Philly, which is where Temple is.
Oh my
And
god.
and how we're going to do that
I'm seeing the John Boyce thing of like we're just flying through in Google Maps.
You get the music, yeah.
Temple basically wants to eminent domain themselves a stadium. Temple football is bad. We lost to Notre Dame a Halloween 2015, and that was our high point as a football school. Temple is a basketball school. But this is, I think, an example of just universities being greedy for the sake of being greedy.
They have that practice field that like a corner is cut off by the Reading Viaduct, which is funny as hell. It's like a baseball stadium, but it's football. There's just a corner cut off.
It's bizarre. Temple like has no business wanting to build this stadium. Temple football really has no business for existing. And yet they insist because TV revenue deals and so on and so forth make it possible for them to make huge sums of money from this mediocre team that they think somehow will become a great football powerhouse.
If you're a stadium stomper, please come on our podcast. It'll be
absolutely,
a good time.
Honestly.
This is a grassroots organization organizing against the Temple Stadium because it's going to be a stupid, dumb disaster area.
Yeah, exactly. Temple kids are not exactly well known for their ability to make nice with people who have lived in North Philly their whole lives. And Temple really does nothing to fix that. They have what's called the Good Neighbor Initiative. They don't fucking mean it. Temple sucks. Go Owls. But Temple sucks.
Why is it that every time the university gets caught in something shitty, they just start a foundation? You can just you can count the shitty things by the foundations.
Yeah, exactly. Or whatever weird grants they do that aren't accountable to anybody.
Well, Glasgow University had started doing reparations for slavery like 200 years later. So that was the foundation. That's cool. And then they're still like investing in weapons manufacturers and stuff. So who cares?
I will say also that Temple does have the largest university police force in the United States because of where it is. And Temple really wants to basically pull a Columbia and buy all of North Philly. And that's pretty fucking gross for a school that should be doing what's really its mission, which is to educate people who may not get a shot at education otherwise. And it's fucking embarrassing that Temple continues to try to be St. Joe's or Villanova or whatever relatively suburban school when it's fucking not.
Okay, so Temple currently plays at the Link, right?
Yes. Which we pay $1 million a year to do, and it's actually going to be more than that.
And the Link,
even though
the Link is owned by the city.
The city, yes, it is.
But the rent is paid to the Eagles.
Yes.
It's so fucking dumb.
Yeah, it's extremely stupid.
It's just efficiency.
They want this. They did play at a stadium in West Oak Lane for a while until '77, and then they moved to South Philly. They basically insist that they need a massive home stadium right there in North Philly, which is fucking insane.
It really is. Yale could use an international airport, huh?
Yes.
The Yale Bowl is a nice stadium.
Why does the university have this drive to expand other than just money.
I mean, that's it. Because it wants to be Drexel. It wants to be a real estate investment trust.
I was about to say, the next slide is where we start talking about the other
Drexel.
The other gender, which is the real estate trust with the university attached. But before we go into that, I do need to use the restroom.
I need another soda.
This
is going to be like a 3-hour episode.
I'm going to get through this in 30 minutes, I promise.
All right. Let me mute myself real quick.
I'll just sit here and tell jokes.
Yeah, you do that.
All right. So a group of 5 Jewish women are eating lunch in a cafe, and their waiter approaches the table. And he says, "Ladies, is anything okay?" And then my favorite one is there's a Jewish man shipwrecked on a desert island. He's stuck, for years. Eventually, using materials he finds around the island, he builds a house, a store, and a synagogue. He makes a whole neighborhood. It's incredibly impressive. When one day he's rescued by a passing ship, the sailors help him, take his stuff, and they get ready to leave. But one of them says, "Why did you build 2 synagogues?" And he says, "This is my synagogue." And then he trots over to the other one and points at it and says, This is the one I would never go to." So, oh god. Whatever. I'll just sit here and continue to tell you about Temple football, which is bad. Temple has no fucking excuse trying to build a stadium. We're in the AAC. We're never going to get to a title game. It doesn't matter. We lost to fucking Villanova and Buffalo like 2 years ago. This is a team that really has no business existing. Temple constantly lose coaches, which I guess is cool. However, we
this is a long-ass joke.
We almost beat... No, I'm still going about our loss to Notre Dame on Halloween in like 2015. It was we almost won that too. We were up 20-17 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, and then Notre Dame beat us on a like walk-off touchdown.
So the kid goes into the confessional and he says, "Wow, it's dark in here." And the priest says, "Don't start that shit again." You get this is your benefit as a Patreon, is you get the punchline to that joke, and I'll give you the setup if you go up a tier.
I like that.
Just like DM me and I will give you the setup to that joke.
I was not here. I missed everything. Back now.
That's fine.
All right.
Let's talk about
Drexel.
So we've gone from the football industrial complex to the real estate industrial complex as relates to universities. So
hey, I see a McKinsey office up there.
Really?
Top right. Yeah.
Oh,
cool.
Wow, they're at the corner of the parking garage of the Sears Center. Interesting.
I love to work overlooking a Sears and a parking lot, fixing bread prices in Canada.
Yes.
Thanks for nothing, Pete.
All right. So, not all universities are football powerhouses with academics attached. Some are real estate powerhouses with universities attached, right? So, let's talk about my alma mater, Drexel University. Okay. So...
Drexel, just a very fun name to say a bunch of times. Doesn't start sounding weird.
Drexel University, of course, founded by A.J. Drexel, who was partner to J.P. Morgan, big financier, douchebag. God, I don't know what he did. If you ever heard of Drexel Burnham and Company,
he was a banker. Yeah,
he's a banker.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of money by virtue of having a lot of money.
Yeah, one of those guys whose money makes money.
And then his daughter, I think, was canonized as a saint.
Yep.
St. Catherine Drexel.
Yep, yeah. St. Catherine Drexel.
How does that happen? Was she martyred?
No, she did a lot for Catholics around Philly, I believe.
Okay.
All right.
What are her miracles, though? Because she's got to have 2.
3. It's 3. 2 is beatified. 3.
Oh, fuck. Okay, shit.
I don't know what they are.
She allegedly
It's going to be one of those modern unfalsifiable ones, like she cured someone's cancer, right?
Deafness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's heard a loud sound. Turned out to be temporary.
Deafness. Actually, deafness for both.
Well, both of them?
Both?
One trick pony much?
I was about to say, yeah. Well, they gotta figure it out somehow. All right, so welcome to my alma mater, Drexel University. Well, also Liam went there for 1 year. And I think this is a classic example of how the real estate academic complex works in real time. So, universities, especially urban ones, are seeking new routes to get revenue, right? One of the best ones is to leverage their real estate holdings to create new sources of income, right?
This is good. So the housing market's always going to go up, right?
Yeah, forever, yes.
Okay.
So,
just checking.
The fastest method is to lease their excess land to developers, right? Because in a lot of places, universities have a very wide berth into what they're able to do with their land, especially Drexel and University of Pennsylvania, which is everything south of Chestnut Street, like along this line. This is all UPenn, bad, except right here. This is Baby Blues Barbecue, which is good. So, and don't go to White Dog. It's bad. It's just irritating. I think Liam got kicked out of there once.
Yeah. No, not that one. Not that one.
Was that the other one?
Yeah, that was the one on in Haverford.
Oh,
what did you do?
Threw up.
Oh, okay.
What can you do? Anyway.
Yeah.
So the fastest method to, start creating income from your excess land is to start leasing that land to developers, right? Then you can get the income straight up. The developers make money because they're putting up buildings. And Drexel has a lot of excess land in very well positioned locations to make a lot of money, right? So this parking lot here by the megabus stop, keep in mind right here is 30th Street Station, where, it's like an hour and a half to New York City. It's 2 hours to Washington, D.C. on high-speed trains, so all this stuff is pretty valuable. They got more parking lots down here. They got a parking lot down here. They got this building here, right? Okay. Where else? That this is not a great building right here. We'll talk about that in a second.
I love to go to parking lot school of law.
They have air rights over this area over here, right? And most of the university is farther back along, here, right?
Yeah, that's cool. Just a big asphalt parking lot, just sitting in the sun baking.
Several big asphalt parking lots just sitting in the sun baking.
Yeah, it's Drexel has been consistently voted the ugliest campus in America, many years running.
We trade it with Carnegie Mellon sometimes.
This is my favorite Philly statistic after the one where we found out that you had the most dangerous intersection in America.
Yes. We have many things here. So, okay, so they own a lot of parking lots, which they can lease to developers to make a shitload of money. Not necessarily a bad idea if, they're replacing these parking lots, which are objectively bad things to have in an urban environment, to add denser development, maybe some academic spaces, maybe some offices and residential spaces to make some money. There's also parking lots back here. And I'd never talked about University City High School. We should talk about that at some point. Not in this episode, though. That's too much. So, all this stuff is zoned very generously. You could put any size building here. There's basically no restrictions on what you could put there. So, very attractive real estate. Drexel decided to start monetizing their real estate under John Fry, MBA, university president. Not a PhD, an MBA. So, but how did they? I think he was the first guy without a PhD to be president of the university. He did a lot of work. So
obviously he is a worker then.
Yes, exactly. All MBAs are workers.
Yes, as we know.
I'll start yelling about business school in a second. So how did they actually start monetizing their real estate? Again, keep in mind, there's lots of obvious monetizable parcels. Let me change colors of the pen because I've already done so much highlighting that it's all confusing. So where the blue highlighting here, right, pay attention to that. There's currently a 30-story tall privatized student dormitory, right? That's called the Summit.
Sucks.
Why are student residences always called this? I like the one I walk past is the Roost.
It's not
it's just so fucking terrible.
I don't even know why it's called the Summit, because the summit of the hill is probably somewhere around here. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so on that site prior to that was a building called Hess Labs.
Ooh, it's ugly. I love it.
I know. It's it looks modern. There's actually 3 buildings from the late 1800s behind this concrete facade. They just put the facade around it.
They're in building jail.
They are in building jail, yes. So there was a lot of stuff crammed in this building, right? There were the heavy civil engineering labs. There was the large-scale seismic testing platform, which was the only one on the East Coast.
A cool building.
Yes.
Where they keep all of the like science that involves hitting stuff with stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
There was the machine shop. There was the concrete canoe club. There was the Formula...
The what?
Concrete canoe.
Excuse me?
Concrete canoe, yeah. You build a canoe out of concrete.
That rules?
And then you race it. Yeah.
This is totally new to me. Does it, like, on water?
Yes.
Yeah.
It floats?
Yeah.
Oh, well, of course it floats. Why wouldn't it float? But yeah,
It was concrete canoe. There was Formula SAE, which is where you build a Formula style race car. It's like a student project. That's the team I was on. We'll talk about that in a second. Right above Formula SAE was the bloodborne pathogen lab. I don't know why that was in there.
Look, it's got heavy walls, right?
Yeah.
If you want to get zombified, this is the building that you want it to happen in. It reminds me very much of how at my university, there's I think it's a BSL-4 lab in the like virology and immunology building that's just like it's the only building on campus that has setback, and it's like it's backed off of everything else.
That's not
and it's got
help.
its own like air thing, and you're just like you're looking at it across the lawn and you're thinking that's not gonna be enough.
And I will say the bloodborne pathogen lab probably had no business being in this building, which is a bunch of stables for the Abbott's Dairy. Back when they delivered on horse carts, which covered in concrete.
It's like a Far Side comic to put the bloodborne pathogens lab in the same building as the seismic test rig.
Yeah, it was.
It's like a giant sign
on the
that says
second story.
Fragile, fragile glass vials department.
Don't worry about that.
So, I think a bunch of hydraulics labs were in there too. Anything that didn't fit anywhere else on campus went in there. I was on the Formula SAE team my sophomore year at Drexel. Sort of didn't get myself involved so much after then for reasons we'll get into. So, the idea of Formula SAE is not the fraternity, it's the Society of Automotive Engineers. And, the idea is
you betrayed your car bad, train good roots.
Race car good. Car bad, race car good. So, and the idea is you build a race car from scratch every year. You race it in a competition. Ours was out in Lincoln, Nebraska. And, we had a pretty good team. Consistently, we made it through tech, which is better than a lot of teams did, including the Honda Technical School.
Nerds.
Dude, these nerds, they were nerds because they showed up. They were so well funded. And they all had matching uniforms, and they came with a big fucking professional, like semi truck, like the big race car trucks, right? and their exhaust was like a piece of dryer vent on their car. And
I want very badly for this to work along the same rules as like the 24 hours of lemons, where you can like get that and you can like bribe your way in with like a suitcase full of beans.
no, the way we got through tech was we had one very aggressive man who would just, bring the entire shop along with them into the tech inspection and just fix everything immediately in front of the inspectors and say, there, it's fixed, it's done.
The rules.
Yeah.
That's where you learn to edit podcasts.
God bless Evan.
Yeah.
I'm looking up these cars. They like, you guys really went for the wing thing that like 70s Formula One did. They've all got enormous spoilers.
Oh yeah, I don't know what they're like now.
We're downforce.
Yeah.
Mm.
So we had a pretty large, well-equipped space in there. We had lots of machine tools. We had welders. We had milling machines. We had our own CNC even. It was a crappy CNC, but it worked. We had lots of privacy, which was good because some not so OSHA things happened in there.
Professor Kaczynski rides again.
The sponsoring professor, no one of us had ever seen him.
This is the good kind of university corruption, is where it's the guy who like has just a shop and don't ask any questions about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a ridiculous space. It was also it was big enough that you could park a few cars down there if you didn't want to pay for university parking. So
Genius.
As one of my friends described it, the place was run like we were a 1970s NASCAR team. But this building, right? Lots of stuff happened in this building that didn't fit anywhere else in the university, right? Large, complex machinery that required special structural requirements, especially the seismic testing platform, which was next door to us. And again, the bloodborne pathogen lab was right over where we were doing.
Just bump into somebody holding a wrench by accident. And you're like, whoops.
I guess we caused coronavirus.
Congratulations on being patient zero.
If you ever heard of MIT Building 20, this was a very similar environment, where lots of creative research happened because no one cared about the building. So in my sophomore year of college, they decided this building had to go. So American campus communities could lease the land and put up a privatized dormitory called the Summit, right? And that's this guy here. Occupies the same land.
With the paneling.
Yeah.
It looks like every building I've ever seen in the last 10 years.
It's not a good looking building, I will say that.
No.
I mean, it's one of the weird thing is it emulates some of the earlier privatized dormitories which were built at Drexel, which we'll get to in a second, which those are Robert Stern buildings, if I recall. They cheaped out on the architect on this one. I mean, not that the Robert Stern buildings looked all that good, that the materials were at least nice. Anyway, so they tore this building down, including I believe there was, in order to house the seismic testing unit, there was a strong wall made of 10,000 psi concrete.
Oh goddamn!
Which is I guess, to put it in perspective, usually high strength concrete is like 3,000 psi. Right.
I'm like, that's like the final boss of like Demolition Simulator, a game that I have just invented in my head and now want badly.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be tight.
There's oh god. So a couple of my friends who were in Concrete Canoe got I helped them design some mugs for the Drexel construction management program because they had taken a couple demolition classes, which was just the Drexel University construction management logo, but the Drexel Dragon had a hard hat on and was smoking a cigarette. And underneath it said "Gravity Luck Balls."
we gotta find that's the thing we need for shirts. Also, that's the energy we need to bring.
Well, I have the mug right in front of me right now. Actually, still use it.
Great mug.
So, when this building was torn down, right, all the heavy civil engineering labs, all the other labs were either they were moved into much smaller spaces where the university had room for them, or the equipment was just thrown out, right?
Somebody got a perfectly functional CNC out of a dumpster.
Our CNC was sold a couple years later. I don't even know if it was sold, to be honest. I think it may be still languishing in a warehouse. This was 8 years ago now. So I have lost track of where the equipment went. But yeah, some of the labs were moved into a building Drexel had bought, which was the printing press building for the Philadelphia Bulletin, which if you've gone to Drexel, that's the building where the garden level classrooms are.
Ugh.
And the garden level classrooms are a very, very large series of it's a whole floor of that massive building, which is 4 stories underground.
Ooh,
that's the garden level.
I love to be a learning orc.
Yes, I believe the only reason they're there is because there was an underground siding for the Pennsylvania Railroad that would deliver newsprint down there, and that's
and they'll just like cram the students down there.
Yes,
it's really subtext becoming text, right?
One of the things about taking classes down there is that in any given classroom, you had trains on 3 sides of you. Because you had the Market Frankford line under Market Street. You had CSX, Norfolk Southern Conrail on the West Philly Elevated. And then you had SEPTA on the 3rd side. And there's just constant trains all around you, which sounds fun, but you can't see any of them, number one. Number two, you can't hear anything because they're all rumbling around it constantly. And it's not so good. So...
Just having a classroom on like an active freight line.
Mm-hmm. Well, only one was an active freight line. The other one was, the subway, and well, not the subway. That was the L, but the L was a subway there, and then regional rail. Especially the seismic testing lab, I know went away completely. There's no more seismic testing labs on the East Coast, to my knowledge. Which is kind of
nothing, Drexel.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a demoralizing effect on a lot of the engineering departments that required actual physical engineering, as opposed to like software engineering, which,
isn't real.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a bunch of computers.
Monkey. Just accept it.
You're just a computer toucher, So, and they replaced them with these privatized dormitories, right? They're not quite dormitories. Because some of them, these are it's
a living space.
They're apartments. Some of the apartments have 2 beds per bedroom, though. Yeah.
Yep.
And you got to pay like $1,200 to share a bedroom.
Yeah, it's fucking gross.
It's absurd. Right?
It sucks being in there too.
Hey, but they've got a Chipotle. That's pretty cool.
Whoa.
Ugh. They got Old Nelson Food Company, which actually has like nice pastrami sandwiches.
Not breakfast though. Their breakfast sucks.
I've never had breakfast there.
It's
I will
bad there.
continue to avoid having breakfast there. So this is the university monetizing its property explicitly at the expense of academic facilities and research facilities, right? One thing you should note, of course, is the parking lot right across the street here, where you presumably could have put a building. And a lot of times students would complain, all our tuition dollars are being used to build these big money-making privatized dorms, right? And the university would respond correctly, no, your tuition dollars are not being used to build these money-making dormitories. They're making money because we're leasing the land, right? Which completely misses the point. the point.
It's very funny though that
Yeah.
your tuition like
It is
is
very
absolutely
Drexel.
nothing to the university.
Yeah.
But like is they will still chase you for it.
Well, I guess it was. I don't know if they found a way to shape the narrative that people complain their tuition dollars were being used to build these buildings, when the real issue is these buildings are being built at no cost to the university, but at the expense of academic and research spaces.
Mm-hmm. Well, like this is a kind of like acceptable student activism to capital, as being like, I'm a customer and I pay your wages, so instead of like you're a public institution, you're supposed to be enabling learning, and instead you've become an apartment like goblin.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, of course, Drexel is private, which is
disregard that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know shit about anything.
I'm private university scum. I'm sorry. So this was the first time they did it. This is the most egregious time they did it. They also did it to a building called the Intercultural Center, which you can see right here, right? And they replaced this with a hotel called the Co-op, right? Because Drexel has...
Why is everything a the?
Drexel has a co-op program, right? Which is where, you spend half the year in an internship.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do get to like make some money and get some work experience, and that was why so many people wanted my resume, which is why I'm, gainfully employed engineer right now, as opposed to a podcaster, right? Right.
Yeah.
So, the Intercultural Center had the study abroad office. They had several chapels for various faith-based organizations. It was, I believe the Title IX office was also in there. And this was all relocated to a basement.
we have put the Title IX office in front of this train.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. At least they're not even being metaphorical about it anymore.
But the
this is a study of how Drexel University does not understand subtext.
Yes. So, the co-op, the hotel is at least partially run by hospitality students, right? So this is kind of academic space, but
it's like a teaching hospital, but for hotels.
Yes. We'll get to that in a second.
Oh God.
But the Intercultural Center, there's a lot of student organization space that was in there, which was just not replaced.
Right.
Well, it saves you having to tear gas them, right?
True.
There you go. That's efficiency.
I feel like people should have been more militant about, losing these spaces. What do I know? So anyway, there are a couple other privatized dormitory student housing type facilities that were built on campus, right? So this over here is Chestnut Square, right? That's a pair of buildings. Then they took this building the university owned, University Crossings. They privatized it, right? This was actually originally an office building for the Pennsylvania Railroad. And then I mentioned before the building that 4 stories underground is where the classrooms were. That's right here, right?
Oh Jesus! So it really is right by the L.
Oh yeah. Well, no, this is the elevated freight train line.
Oh fuck!
The L goes underneath Market Street. And then the regional rail trains come through here, but there's also another line that goes under here.
That's like the least hospitable space you can imagine. It's just being wedged in between. Yeah, well, unfortunately, we've moved your classroom to inside this sewer pipe.
Yeah, we've actually put it
Welcome
inside.
to Mordor. We're happy to have
Mordor, but with a lot more trains. Which, I kind of like, but I understand if other people don't like it.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some.
Mm-hmm. Then there's the Evo, which is like the luxury expensive dorm over here. More student housing, but you had to be like a foreign student paying full freight to afford that particular building. then what? There's another one over here that again was only affordable to foreign students paying full grade.
Domus, yeah.
Yeah, Domus. Domus was also where it was really easy to get liquor delivered to you if you were underage.
This is why is going to university in a major American city like playing a game of Shadowrun?
It really is.
So, they built all these things and they never developed all these parking lots, right? Over here, over here, over here, so on and so forth, right? And they're all right next to 30th Street Station, right? Major inner city rail hub. What the hell is going on here, right? And in the meantime, they built, in the time I was there, as they were demolishing all these buildings and putting up all the student housing buildings, they built one academic building. That's the LeBeau College of Business right here. And of course,
is it the world's biggest knife?
I remember walking by here. We went out for a walk during Hurricane Sandy and seeing every single metal joist had been blown out of the building because it was still under construction. That was fun.
Yikes.
I got a SEPTA sign for 30th Street Station that had blown off a post. So, business schools, of course, business schools should not exist.
No.
Those
in the line for Central Park along with sports.
What was Robert E. Lee's second greatest crime?
W&L, baby.
Trying to make gray a morning color?
Inventing the modern business school.
Huh.
That was what he did after the war at Washington and Lee University.
Thanks for nothing, Rebs.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the textbook for the first business course is just like Slaves 101.
It's just reverse Marxism. It's supply side Marxism. So, all right. So they built the business school, and that was the only academic building they built the whole time I was there. And of course, business school, it's a much cheaper school to run than, say, an engineering school that requires actual lab space with like machinery and shit like that, right? The most specialized tool you need is like a Bloomberg terminal.
Which you can just like plumb in.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And there's more and more floor space being added throughout the university, but actual spaces for academic activities kept getting smaller and smaller, right? Especially student spaces. I remember shortly after I left the school newspaper, which was in this building behind Chestnut Square, I had a corner office. That was hot shit.
Like J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah. I usually kept a handle of crap. I think it was wild turkey in my filing cabinet, and it was always filed under W.
That
for whiskey. Yeah. So, they at some point the yearbook tried to claim half the space the newspaper was using because they had more influence with the administration, I guess. And I think they got it. I haven't been there since they tried that. But the student organization space has been being reduced and reduced and reduced as more.
You just got organized in a parking lot now.
I always said I wanted to take the newspaper off campus entirely and put it in a row house.
That.
Yeah, but
can't take away our space if we're already gone. Just fill it to the brim with like dead Macs and shit.
Yes.
Just like the newspaper gets more and more militant until we just do the move bombing again.
He did a parody in Minecraft of the newspaper called The Rectangle. Should I tell your story for you? Or you want to tell it?
Well, so the newspaper was called The Triangle, still is called The Triangle, because Drexel's old symbol was a triangle of, what was it? Science.
Art, industry, science or something?
Art, industry, science, yes. Which was then later replaced with Mario the Dragon, which is kind of lame. Just like, the mascot was the Tech Men. Now it's Mario the Dragon.
Once again, Shadowrun shit.
Yeah.
And, the April Fool's Day issue was called The Rectangle. Well, I don't know which rectangle you're referring to because I did.
Oh,
two
the
of
one
them.
where you play the International when you loaded it.
Oh yeah, the Bernie Sanders 2016 full communism now, hail Satan headline. Yes. So yeah, but anyway, so the question here is that I'm trying to pose is why are all these academic spaces being taken out while these parking lots were not being developed for any useful purpose, right? Even like the printing press building down here, why not put a building there? No one cares about it.
You got to have somewhere to park your car.
It's worse than that.
You got to
Worse?
sit on money forever and ever and ever.
These lots were too valuable to be developed for academic space.
Yep.
Because
they did a development. Oh my god, that hurts me in my soul.
yes.
Yeah.
So the
No.
Yes.
Shadowrun.
Welcome to Schuylkill Yards, baby.
Yeah. Oh fuck off! They made a corporate space.
Yes.
well,
Thank
this
you,
is still
Brandywine Trust.
this is so far still under development. Only one building is like even got the foundations poured at this point. This is called Schuylkill Yards, right? It's like Hudson Yards, but it's on the Schuylkill, and it's not actually on the train yards, which you'll notice are over here, right? As opposed to the buildings being on top of them. These buildings are on top of parking lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Schuylkill Yards ish.
So, it
More
was
or less, Schuylkill Yards.
a partnership between Drexel and Brandywine Realty. And
They sound nice.
well, I've had some back when I worked for the firm. I did work on a weird project with Brandywine or Brandywine involved.
Dear Justin, thanks for all your help with Project Arcturus. It's not the Denver Broncos, but it'll do.
No, there was like a weird like suburban retail but residential project in like Voorhees, New Jersey, where the ownership was divided horizontally along the center of a concrete slab, which meant no one could figure out who was responsible for some kinds of maintenance. I was only tangentially involved with it. It was very dumb. Anyway.
Was that the Main Street Promenade? Because that thing's fucking brutal.
I believe it was, yeah. Someone owns the first floor and someone else owns the 2 floors above it, and the ownership's divided through the slab. And it's not don't divide ownership of buildings horizontally.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Do not do the Odd Couple thing where you comically tape a line down the center of your apartment to indicate ownership, and then put it down the middle of the refrigerator or something.
Engineering's dumb. Don't do it. Anyway, so this is mostly an offices project, upscale retail on the ground floor. Right, there's some apartments, I believe, as well. They're going to do some kind of community benefits agreement, which I'm sure won't do shit.
Sure they are.
Yeah, the rent's going to just skyrocket everywhere. Because, the Paladin Village is, I guess that's already pretty... I mean, it's never not been gentrified, but then Mantua, will just skyrocket in rents if this thing gets built. Is, of course, a concept rendering, not final designs for buildings. They got Sharples, Holden, and Pasquarelli, right? Better known as shop architects. Because it's a big, dumb New York City architecture firm. Does a lot of prestige buildings. The Domino Sugar redevelopment was one of theirs. Also, one of the new stupid pencil towers is one of theirs.
It's like an interestingly structural box.
God forbid they get a Philly architect to do like a Philadelphia huge development. It's very dumb to me.
Just one enormous row house. It's like a row house, but it fills up an enormous block and it's 600 stories tall.
I agree with that one. I want to do that one. Yes. So the thing is, this land under these parking lots was just too valuable to underdevelop or to develop for academic purposes alone, right? I believe some of these buildings are supposed to eventually have academic spaces in them, but that relies on them getting built, right?
Yeah.
So
which you just completely sabotage because the university's whole administrative focus now is on doing a land deal.
Yes. So, because just, how ideal the site is. I mean, 30th Street Station is right here. You can get to New York City real quick. You can get to Washington, D.C. real quick, right? You can get anywhere in the region through regional rail to inner city bus terminal. Supposed to go here at some point. It's too valuable for the university's financial future to be staked on putting academic spaces here, right?
in order to secure the future of the university had to become a not university.
Yes.
And had to become a hedge fund.
That's what happens when a fucking MBA runs your school.
It's very, very dumb. I mean,
extremely.
John Fry is very good at real estate development. He's not good at running universities. I mean, sure, Franklin and Marshall College is on a firm financial footing, but like, does anyone want to go to Franklin and Marshall?
It's a good school. You just have to live in Lancaster.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. Lancaster's nice. So, yeah, academic functions had to suffer so the university could realize the largest future monetary gains. It's been in the work for 7 or 8 years now, and site preparation has started for one building. I got to switch colors again because no one can figure out what I'm doing. The one building right here, they're finally starting work on, which, of course, looks entirely different. It's red.
Yeah, you got some interestingly structural cubes instead of one interestingly structural cube.
I like that it's red. I don't like the whole various cubes stacked on other cubes sort of situation. I think that's dumb. I think it's played out. It's. I will
be honest. I like it quite a bit because I think it's emblematic of Drexel to just have the dumbest fucking building.
I don't hate it. I will say that I don't hate it. But I also think that, I
like one corner of a Rubik's Cube.
I would like a building that complements 30th Street Station a bit more. I mean, maybe I'm reactionary because I've suddenly been like, maybe we should just do buildings faced in stone. Maybe we shouldn't do something which looks like a bunch
modernity, embrace tradition.
This is a bunch of 1960s cubes just stacked on top of each other in an interesting way. These are not.
This is the thing. I'm certain that at least one person involved with this design has described it as playful.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe they have actually.
Of course.
I bring up the Inga Saffron article about it. I'm sure it says something about it.
And she was brutal. I liked it.
I know Kate Wagner likes this.
Well, there's no accounting for taste.
Thanks for
friend
nothing,
of the
Kate.
show.
Thanks for nothing, Kate. I hope your VM gets a virus.
This is the most on-brand thing for us, is we just abuse guests and friends on other episodes.
I don't hate it. I just feel like we could have done more on this space. But
I think it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah. It's
if what you want in a central location in your city is fine, then it's fine.
Yeah. It's not a parking lot, which is good. But
yeah, that's true.
Okay. But to sort of conclude on this is, I guess density is good, right? But should this, come at should this come at the expense of academic space, especially like space for engineering labs at the well-renowned engineering school? Or well,
no, I mean, you could fit so many seismic things in this. Just each box is like a separate seismic rig.
Well, it looks like it already got hit.
Bouncing up and down.
It looks like it already got hit by a seismic rig. And, should this come at the expense of student services or student organization space? But are we really focusing on, which I think is the future of Drexel at this point, at least under John Fry? Is it just going to be a business school from now on? Because that's the cheapest thing to do, and it probably makes you the most money. I mean, this whole academics as a money making scheme, getting donations out of your alumni is not a good way to go forward.
No. You probably have like some vestigial humanities, just for like prestige's sake. But other than that,
They have one women's studies course, so Fox News can get mad.
yeah, but that means that you can go to your donors and be like, we're doing feminism, and then all of these like nice Emily's List ladies will give you millions of dollars.
Yeah, there's one women's studies course, and everything else is like crushing the worker 403.
I do know somebody who went to Drexel for political science, so.
Oh, God. Go to the Early Mac School of Law. Wow, just, they were disaccredited while I was there.
I forgot about that.
And then they took Early Mac's name off of it because he couldn't pay.
That rules. Can I introduce you to my favorite name for a law school, which is
Law.
Also very good, but no, it's also at UCL, I believe, unless I've mixed it up and it's at LSE. It's the Dixon Poon School of Law.
Wow.
I can promise you that knowing people on staff there, they never ever use the full name of the school for comic effect on the phone, and to like answer it and be like Dixon Poon School of Law.
I was gonna say that my mother went to George Mason Law way before it turned into sort of the Legion of Doom headquarters to the American conservative movement.
Yeah.
And it's funny because up until a few years ago, people would be really impressed when, she was like, oh yeah, like I went to Mason for law school. And then they changed it to Ass Law, and they still beg for donations. And she just always responds, is this Ass Law?
I mean, that's me at every seminar.
They made us, when I was in elementary school, they made us do the mile run on the George Mason track every year.
Huh.
Or the presidential fitness test. I cannot to this day run a mile. I can bike 50 miles in a go. I can't run 1 mile.
Well, you can row. That's pretty impressive.
I can row. I can row 1 mile.
Yeah, but legs are stupid.
You can cover a mile.
Legs are a stupid invention. They don't work. I'm absolutely with you on this one, Ross.
It's the joints. It's the joints that are the problem. You get that
too much
impact
going on
over
there.
and over and over again. Because these other things are also leg sports, but it's the joints get you, and you just have this impact over and over again. It's just unhealthy. No one should run. Get a bike, get a boat, do something else.
I want to do some pseudoscience. Like, the thing about how trains can't go over 30 miles an hour because like everybody's lungs will get sucked out. Yes. I want to be like, you cannot run for like some poorly understood physiological reason that like your knees will explode or something.
I like the idea of there's your problem 2020, do not run.
Don't run.
Yeah.
Ultra marathoners made up. Don't exist. They're all lying. They get a cab. They get a cab after they get out of view. And they go to the end of the track and wait around. So I suppose I would be remiss if I didn't mention Hahnemann Hospital, right? Hahnemann Hospital, of course, has been in the news recently because it was closed down, and the guy who owned it decided, I'm not going to let you reopen this for the coronavirus crisis because I demand some rent from the city.
Yeah, gigantic shithead, even by shithead standards.
You're fucking evil.
Very shitty thing to do. I mean, the justification was I'm charging well below market rate, and it's like, dude, just give them the fucking hospital.
No one gives a fuck.
That you
just
closed down because you wanted to turn it into condos. Just let them have it for 6 months.
Yeah. Fucking just have the Philadelphia Police Department do the only good thing they will ever have done in their entire organizational existence, and just come break the doors open with bolt cutters. Honestly, is my answer.
Yeah.
Sue me about it later. Where's that kind of governance?
But this was also Drexel University's teaching hospital.
Yeah.
And it was sold for land development. To be converted into condos.
I mean, like
this is not Drexel's fault.
The teaching hospital, the teaching hospital as a whole, and like med school as a whole, is a whole other episode. But like, Yeah, the way in which any university envisions teaching medicine now does not involve having a hospital, for better or worse.
It's just absurd. This is a very very affordable, very centrally located hospital, right? It's one of the several low income accessible hospitals in the city, but this is the most centrally located and certainly the largest. And it's like, yeah, no, this should be condos.
Yeah,
this should be condos. And also, I'm not going to let you have it to treat coronavirus. And go fuck yourselves. Goodbye. You can find me in Florida because a lot of people were graffitiing his house that was for sale in Rittenhouse Square.
Good.
But but he lives in Florida. Like, you should probably go do vandalism there.
No, you shouldn't.
Well, you shouldn't do that.
You should encourage
parody
people.
in Minecraft.
Parody.
No, that wasn't my thing. I wasn't doing parody in Minecraft. I was doing social distancing in Minecraft. You should encourage people who live in Florida to go there.
Surround him.
That's a good point. Yeah,
but stay 6 feet away.
It's very
surround him.
Very dumb, right? This is not Drexel's fault, but the rot of the real estate, industrial academic complexes everywhere. Like, we can't do anything because it all has to be converted to luxury housing.
So I have a question to close us out, and I feel like this is a natural ending point after we've run for like 3 hours, and that is, I want to take a vote, like a show of hands. If these are our two genders, right? The football team that does child abuse and the real estate fund that shuts down hospitals, which do we prefer the American university to be, as like a show of hands? Because I think I prefer the real estate one.
I really like college football. So I will.
Ross, deciding vote.
No, the objective moral university here is one that does not have a huge amount of real estate holdings and which does not have
a football team,
football or any sort of sports scholarships. I have to go with Washington and Lee University.
I will be taking. I'll be taking LaSalle University. It's cheap.
Boy. So everyone, all the listeners know.
Congratulations on graduating the there's your problem normal school.
Yes.
Bachelor's course.
Oh, that could be a thing if we ever get around to making merch. We can send you diploma mills. We can be a diploma mill.
Why do you use Land of Hope and Glory for college graduations?
Pomp and circumstance.
Are they the same thing?
Why though?
Yeah, but you care.
Yeah, that's true.
And he was sorry. We used an English composer. Sorry about the special relationship. Would you like to be speaking German? That's what I thought.
Oh man.
So if we sounded weird during the Bhopal episode, it's because we recorded it immediately after this one, which we're now about to do. Anyway.
Yeah, we the sleep deprivation episode.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
all right,
God.
so are we ending this recording?
Oh yeah,
I think so.
Right,
yeah,
I did want to say thank you very much for listening. I personally, Bras put in a huge amount of work, but this was an episode I did a ton of research on personally. I hope it's good. I hope you liked it. Give us your fucking money.
And I showed up eventually.
Thank you.
Still gonna take my third though.
All right.
You do the captions. That's hard work.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. So thank you.
A division of labor.
Yeah.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye everybody.